too. That's probably easier because I'm bad at this.
Okay.
We are entering the banter.
I like the banter.
The banter has
The
begun.
banter. The banter has begun. So banter, 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 banter,
Well,
banter, banter.
it's like it's
Black
it
banter.
in the movies and stuff like that when they need like random crowd sound. Everyone's like rhubarb, 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 rhubarb. And because when it overlaps, it just makes like that perfect like rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb.
Rubarbo, rubarbo. You got the one guy going rubarbo, rubarbo, I'm Italiano, rubarbo.
Okay, Marcus, you keep saying that. You're not in this scene. Get out of here, Marcus.
Yeah, kick him off the set. No donuts for you. Don't take a bagel. Do not take a bagel. Bagels are for closers.
Bagels are for winners.
Yes.
All right,
Coffee is for closers.
let's do the thing. Let's do the thing where we start the show.
All right. Well, welcome in everyone to Dig on America, a socio-political podcast where every week we give you the dig on U.S. history, politics, policy, and sometimes pop culture. And we discuss how they affect social issues today. DOA is independent media funded by listeners, but also, in all likelihood, a deep state propaganda arm funded by the Clinton Foundation, by George Soros, by Jay Z, and I don't know, Richie Rich is probably also funding us these days.
Still alive? I heard he went on some nasty coke benders back in like the late '90s.
He is dead. Yes, he was replaced by Montana Max
Mm.
of Tiny Toons fame. That's correct. So Montana Max now funding this show. So there you go. So I am here, it's Jason Dutch, with my producer extraordinaire. You know him from being an extra on the movie Pootie Tang, Michelangelo Faminier. It's happening.
That dude has one of the best music videos on the history of Earth called "Did I Mention I Like to Dance?" Yes, you have to type in the whole thing to find it. It is amazing. It has Dutch. You would love this. It has every dance in it from like our age, like my age and back. Every dance is in it. It's so good. It's
I
so
want to
good.
check that out. You just introduced me to Macho Man's rap, so I'm learning all types of new shit today.
Be a man, Hulk.
And we also have a guest with us today. Welcome back to the show. One of my favorite Republicans, Andrew Mecca Davis. What's happening, AD? What's cracking, buddy?
Nothing much. Just dealing with life, and life's getting interesting, for lack of a better word, right now. And a lot of cool stuff's happening in my world.
Well, that's good to hear. Tell us, this is your first time on Dig on America. You were on Voice from the Underground before we switched the format. Um, Post election, we had probably like 9 people on that show at some time just talking about all the crazy shit that was going on. It was a lot of fun. And we found you sensible. So we wanted to have you back. We believe me, we've had not so sensible folks on this show. But so tell us a little bit, like, what's your elevator pitch? We know you're into a lot of different stuff, but give us the bio on A Mecha D.
So I'm a really big otaku anime
I'm a
comic
big
book.
deal, a big deal.
People know about me. Have you heard of something called the internet?
I'm kind of famous. Okay, let's go have sex.
What?
That too. I'll take that as well. But,
Yes.
but in all seriousness, I'm really big into anime, comics, pop culture, and so that's kind of what I like to do. And I am a big free speech guy, and that's kind of how I guess, sort of became more conservative. Is that I care about free speech in literature. I care about free speech for rational discussions and furthering discussions, and that's kind of what I like to do and talk about. And even going beyond that, though, I like to be reasonable. And so I do a lot of writing on anime, comics, just breaking down comics, giving an intellectual spin to it. I also tend to do a lot of interviews. In the last 90 days, I've done 43 interviews in a very short amount of time, and my goal is 150 this year, all live on my Facebook page. And so that's what I like to do. And I talk to everybody, and I'm a pretty rational, down the center type of guy. I lean a little bit right, but I'm not on the alt right or anything like that. And I believe there's a difference between politics and governing as well. And then also, one of my big things right now is I'm running an entire podcast called the Comic Book Investing System Podcast. And it's all about teaching the skill sets of how to invest in comic books properly. So I don't go through anything like a top 10 list because by the time those top 10 lists come out, they're garbage. And half the time they're wrong, and that's me being generous. And I believe that you should teach people skills and not necessarily what books to buy. Because if you teach somebody a skill, how to build a budget or how to actually do research, they could then go figure out how to do it, and then they can do it themselves, and they could actually figure out what books to buy or what books to ultimately buy ahead of time and hold on for 6 months and make good money, because I also sell on eBay and I also practice what I preach. So anything that I say, hey guys, if I ever throw out a book, chances are I either bought it or I've sold it, or I know a bunch of people who actually have real statistical data and not the data that somebody's trying to sell you at a show or in a comic shop, but actually on eBay. And so that's kind of the basis of what I am. But I'm glad that you think I'm reasonable. That makes me feel special inside.
Ooh.
That's interesting. So,
Uh-oh.
as a former baseball card, football card, basketball card collector, I've been very jaded by the fact that cards that I had when I was like 14
I
that
can
were
make you
worth
feel less
$100.
jaded in 30 minutes. In 30 seconds, I can make you feel a lot less jaded.
Oh, good, because I'm kind of wondering, like, it's really soured on me. Like now, baseball cards have taken this turn where you have to spend money and they have to have them graded, and I always thought this card was worth $200, and now it would have been worth $8,000 if it was a 10, but 10 doesn't exist, so it's a 7, and it's only worth $30. So it's like all this stuff that I want to hand on to my kid. It's kind of soured, and like, so with comics, like I have a lot of comic books. Also, I don't have a ton of them, but like, is that different? Do they have a similar like get rich quick scheme with the people trying to certify them? I mean, are you allowed to read them, or do you have to take them and put them in a Ziploc bag and throw them into a black hole, a black vortex to keep them worth any money?
I mean, you could read it if you're careful. I've read books and I've had them graded and come back out as 9.8s, which
So
is
they
a
do.
really
So they do grade them.
so I do grade them, and then a bunch of them have come back as 9.8s. But a lot of what I do is that I'm more of a speculator. So I will read something digitally, or I will buy two copies,
Right.
and I will get one copy graded if I think it's going to be a bigger deal, and then I'll read the other one in that circumstance, or I will get a variant graded, which is a lower print run or a more special print run, or a particular artist did something, and I'll get that book graded, and then I'll get that one graded because it's a lower print run, and then I'll get the regular cover, which is not worth much. Maybe it's worth like $8 if I sell it raw. But lately, what I've been doing is I've been just selling books raw. I actually just sold the book this morning for about $60, and I paid 25 for it, and I've legitly had it in my possession for 2 weeks. And so I legitly, after eBay fees, I think I'm making $18 in profit on it. And the way I set up my business, and I explain this because I'm teaching an entire class on this, where I pay for the item and then I only take out the profit I made. And so I pay for all the fees that are associated with selling the item cost itself. And then I just take out the money, and then I do whatever I want with that money. And then I kick that $25 into the next book. And so right now, because I put so much money in and I have a constant cycle, I'm actually adding about only $100 a year to the entire fund to buy new books, which means the fund is growing at such a low rate because I treat it almost like a fund and almost like a private equity venture fund is how this is for me. And so it's super interesting, but I still graded books. Actually, we were talking about wrestling, and you mentioned the Randy Macho Man thing. And I just sold an autographed John Cena comic book for double what I paid for it. And I bought it at a low rate, and I sold it for a decent amount of money, and I pulled in about $90 in profit on it. And I held that book for about 2 years. So, I mean, I do a lot of stuff, but it's kind of crazy how, this stuff's worth money. I'm not making a boatload of money per book, but I sell in such volume that I do make a decent amount of money. you know, and my profit margin is about 35 to 40% on everything I sell. So that's
Hmm.
the profit out of it. It's just I've been doing this for 10 plus years now. And so I know what to buy, what not to buy, and how to deal with all that. But obviously, and I want to teach a class about this, and I run an entire free podcast that gives a lot of advice because I get that not everybody can afford to spend $300 for a class. And so while the class is cleaner, and there's stuff in that class where I would say 70% of what I teach in that class you can get for free if you really want to look for it, but it's going to be messy. It's that other 30% that you might not get in a class. But that's why I'm doing the podcast for free, because I get that not everybody can afford, to do this. But I do expect that if you're going to take my podcast, which is free, you like my page. I do expect that, which I think is a fair exchange in the long run.
I think it's time for 4 down territory.
Yeah, I think so too. That was actually a good 4 down territory topic, but
I'm going to make you less jaded about baseball cards, basketball cards. So 30 seconds, and we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Oh,
yeah.
So Michael Jordan, there's 315. I forget what card. Somebody's going to know it. It sold, I think, 6 months ago for $738,000. 2 weeks ago, it sold for $400,000. So obviously, this basketball and baseball and all these sports collectibles are actually now starting to turn downward again, which means that the value that was projected in the last 6 months was just a super hyped up, artificially inflated bubble in this. And so the stuff that you might be like, oh man, this car's going for 6, 7, 8, 9 grand. 2 years from now, they're going to be more in the $2,500 range is really what I'm feeling, and a lot of other people are feeling. So a lot
sounds
of
like
what
the housing bubble.
It's supposedly there is a bubble surrounding this, and things are massively overpriced right now, and people have overpaid for items. And so what you're seeing right now is not the real deal, because in 2 years from now, you're going to see stuff that was once, as I stated, almost $1 million being half of what it's worth. So hopefully that
Wow.
And what
curtails your jadedness a little bit.
And what about NFTs? Do you know anything about that? Are they,
I don't get it. I honestly, me and my friend were actually thinking about trying to find somebody and us hosting a Zoom call, private or maybe even public, to explain about NFTs, because I know nothing about that. I don't get it. And I get Bitcoin, I get Ethereum. Yeah. I don't get an NFT.
Are you familiar with that, Dutch? What NFTs are?
I want to say that I've heard of that before, but I'm not placing a finger on what it is. Once you say it, I might remember, but at this second, I'm blanking. So no.
It's kind of like that crypto, essentially certification of music or art or stuff, collector's stuff. So a lot of times, like people with like this dude's only doing, I forget the guy's name, but he's only doing like 100 paintings this year, and he's selling the NFTs for him. So like the first 10 people got the NFT for free, but then like he said he was selling the NFTs for the rest of them, and he's getting like $60,000-$70,000 per painting for the rest of the year, because people are like, oh, it's rare, it's collectible. It's a way of using the crypto algorithms to ensure the authenticity of the item. And they're even doing that with like data files now. So like if you like the Be a Man Hulk song that we were listening to earlier, like you could essentially in theory buy the NFT and you would own the original one. Like the original one. Now,
so it's like a master.
Kind of. It's like a master. I mean, because obviously everybody else can just go onto the streaming platform and just record it, and it's identical by and large. But there, with the NFT, there's a crypto backing to ensure that this is the legit, authentic first MP3 of this. And that's cool to some people.
Is it some sort of blockchain setup type?
Correct.
Blockchain I don't get it. I just don't get it.
It's a mystery to me. I listened to about 2.5 hours of a podcast with it, and I was like, what I just said is all I got out of that 2.5 hours. Like 5 sentences. That's all I got.
I'm a conceptual person, so I get what a comic book looks like. I get the fact that when something has a 250 print run, I get that it's super rare. There's only 250 of these, and that's what makes it collectible. So I get that aspect of it.
Right.
But what I don't get is that this is a digital thing, and
Right.
is really owning the master. When I just want to listen, when we're listening to, before we went live, the Rando Macho Man rapping and dissing Hulk Hogan, do I really want to own that? Like,
But
if I
that's
could stream it, it would be
yeah.
different if now I had access to deny or grant streaming positions, even without money attached to it. And with money, obviously, it becomes an asset. But an NFT, from my understanding, and the little I know about it, is that you don't own any of that money positioning part of it unless you do.
Right.
Like,
And
that's where I get confused.
and the other part of it is that I just remembered the person who creates the initial product, the initial item, the initial collectible, they get kickbacks every time it gets sold. Like they get a percentage. So if I bought, like I paint something, right? And Dutch, you're trying to help me out and you buy it for $10. I become rich and famous. You get it certified. We get an NFT on that. You sell it to somebody for $50. Okay, so then you're going to get your little piece. I get my little piece. He sells it for $100,000. You get broke off. The person after you gets broke off, and I get broke off. So it's like this continual like chain of custody, which kind of goes into the residuals that actually see like, and that's what happens with
marriage between blockchain and a pyramid scheme.
Well, kind of, but the thing is, it's good for the creator because if I saw in the example I just said, I sold you the painting for $10. I didn't know that 2 or 3 sellers down the road it'd be going for $100K. You know what I'm saying? And now all I get is the $10, and everybody else makes all the money off of it, and I just got the $10. But if it has an NFT attached to it, then that I get a piece of that as well. So everybody makes money. Everybody it's a very different concept. It's a very different concept. But hit us up with your Omaha over there.
Yeah, I just don't get it. It's confusing to me. And also, I'm an investor. And I mean, if I buy something and I'm taking the risk saying that this could go up or down, and then you're going to get a continuous piece of it, and I took a big risk, like, or even a small risk, I get both sides of the argument. But like, I'm also saying to myself, like, if I now bought something for 10K or 70K, and then you're going to get a little piece of it, whether it sells for higher or lower, like that to me just, I don't know, it's tricky. Like, I don't mean to screw artists because I know how hard it is.
Yeah,
and
because I think this
is a good example of that, where those guys got screwed completely.
Yeah,
they got ramrodded. And I think I could curse on this, right?
What the fuck are you talking about? Absolutely not. No fucking cursing. And Dutch, you're muted.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I was on mute. Fuck yes. No, fuck you. You can't.
So they got fucked over. I'm being polite here, and I ask because I don't know what the rules are. So Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel, I might have messed up their names. They got fucked over by DC Comics, and nothing against DC or anything. It was a different time, but they got fucked over. Superman's a multi-billion-dollar property. Stan Lee got fucked over. So my point is that I get that the NFT, especially in comics, solves some of that, where it presents the complete fucking over. But at the same time, if I'm an investor, it's a balancing act.
But I think the way that it's set up, both you and the original artist both win. It's just so that like struggling and burgeoning artists aren't completely left out of the equation because I'm fucking hungry and I need $100. So I sold a piece that is probably worth 100 times that, but I just needed it right now. But now they can do the NFT. People can get it for their price, make money off of it, and then they can make money, and the person after them can make money off of it, and it continues to change. But then the artist isn't completely left out of the loop forever because they just had to give up their piece. Because I mean, with streaming and everything like that now, like back in the day, you had to print a vinyl. You had to burn CDs. You had to spin up some cassettes. And then that was a physical asset that could be like made and manufactured, but somebody had to take over the cost. That's where the record labels came in. But now that everything's gone so digital, it's hard to just tell people that, no, you don't get it anymore. It's gone. It belongs to someone else. Well, now with the NFT, if someone has an NFT on it, then they get to continue over.
Like Ja Rule.
Ja Rule, that dude.
He wished he had an NFT when
Yeah.
50 bought all of his masters up.
Or people sell your masters without your permission. Or when MJ bought all of the Beatles, the rights to all the Beatles songs. Like these things
didn't
happen.
Lil Wayne just make a big exit by selling all of his masters? I think a few months ago.
Oh, he sold the Cash Monies. He didn't sell his.
I
Or
know
Young Money. Young Money. He sold all. So like the Drake and Tyga and Nicki Minaj, he sold all their masters. He didn't sell his.
Because I know he made a nice exit on that.
Yep, he sold all their shit and was like, I'm gonna need this money.
Because I think he said, I want to make sure my kids are, from my understanding, he said, I want to make sure that my kids are good, which is probably super smart, and I respect that.
Maybe stop sipping lean and going to jail. I mean, there's an option. Stop riding around with guns. You're already a millionaire. Why are you going out to the club? You live in a mansion, idiot.
Yeah, Trump's not president anymore, so you can't pardon you.
Yeah, yeah, you better take it easy.
I don't get it. Why are you holding guns? Don't you have people for that? Can't you like go hire?
Oh my god, I have never understood why the rapper feels the need to hold the gun themselves. What are you, stupid? They're gonna be looking for you to hold the gun. Pay him to hold the gun. Duh.
Hire somebody who actually knows how to do it and can protect you, because chances are you go hire like an ex-military guy and they're going to protect you and save your ass. And if some shit does go down, they're going to make sure the target actually gets annihilated.
Or they're going to have the right fucking concealed carry permits and you're not going to be carrying illegal weapons. Jason, hit it. Who did that? Hit it.
All righty. So it is time for 4 Down Territory. 21. Iowa.
Iowa. Cicero.
All right. So we are into 4 Down Territory. We're going to ask you 4 questions. You are going to give us 4 answers. And these will all be, just some fun questions. So there's nothing to be scared of here, I think. So
this means first question. This means I'm
first question I will ask you is this. Well, we're gonna play another game with you later, but this one will be
gross.
fun. So
gross.
God, you say that every time. There's nothing gross about that.
Gross.
All right, so you are a fan of comics, anime, that sort of stuff. You're also a political guy, so looks like me and Mikey would both be asking you 2 questions. So I'm going to ask you the comic question first. It'll be simple: DC, Marvel, or are you a fan of independent comics? What's your go-to?
I'm a DC guy. Much more over Marvel.
Oh, we're having some technical difficulties. I just lost Andrew's feed. Let me just kick him out of here.
Yeah, on with the show, guys. Right. So, DC guy, Mikey, what do you got?
Goku versus Superman.
I gotta go with my boy Superman. As much as I like Goku, I think Superman's gonna just.
Oh, the technical difficulties are back. Oh no!
I just think so. Like,
I hate you.
All right, so I'll turn it political here for you. If you had to vote as a Republican, if you had to vote for any one of the 2020 Democratic candidates who were originally on the ticket, who would be your president and VP pick from that matrix of people?
So you mean like the 20, right?
The 22 or whoever who ran, Tulsi Gabbard, Cory Booker, that whole pick. Who would be the 2 that you like that you would have put if you were in charge of putting people in office?
I like Tulsi a lot. I really like her. I actually feel like she cares. I feel much like Bernie. I feel like she cares about America and that she's not on a power ego trip like I feel like certain other people are. Obviously, I don't feel like Joe Biden's on an ego power trip, but I feel like Kamala is to some degree, and a few others I felt were out there. Like I feel like Elizabeth Warren was a little bit on that trip as well. So I want Tulsi as president because I actually think that, and she's made some fair points about the entire thing with us writing blank checks for endless wars and things like that, which I think were fair. And she was one of the 60 House members that didn't sign that and opposed it. which means that there was a lot of Republicans and Democrats, and I'm not a fan of endless wars. And so that's the first person. And then I think John Delaney as well, and maybe as a VP, because I like that blue collar element of John Delaney. I think John Delaney understands business, and I think that he's just a good blue collar, hardworking American who actually also cares and also is sort of closer to the people. And I think he understands what struggle looks like, even though he's one of the wealthiest or was one of the wealthiest members of Congress.
I was just going to say
that. I was like, dude, you picked like the third richest one.
The reason why I say this, though, is that he did not start out that way. He was a plumber, from my understanding, or an electrician. So he...
Show the plumber.
So I do think he has that element to him. And I'm not saying he's perfect, but those are the two that I would definitely vote for, because I do think that they get it. Now, obviously, I tend to lean right. But, honestly, if I had to vote Democrat, and I voted for Obama once. I wasn't old enough the first time he ran, so I am not, born bred Republican. I grew up in New York. I live in Connecticut. My parents are Democrats, so I obviously became very different in leaning into 2014, 15, 16, and I got introduced to libertarian ideas, and that's shifted me. But I'm not completely Republican either. So, and I liked Obama. I thought Obama was a better candidate than John McCain and Mitt Romney. So I'm not saying that, so I was on the left for most of my life.
Okay, fair enough. I thought you were going to say Tom Steyer. I was almost sure of it. But anyway, Mikey,
I'm not a fan of him. He was just bland. Like Bloomberg was bland. Like I felt like there was no passion there.
Oh, come on. You love rich guys. That's your favorite. But back to you being a free speech absolutist. Are lines in the sand needed at all on free speech?
On speech, I don't think anything on speech should be limited. Now, no. When speech becomes action, that's a different thing, but that's action. So I'll give a great example. I think you should be able to draw any political cartoon you want to draw. Now, that doesn't mean you're free from consequence. That just means that government isn't going to say no. So if something happens and you get sued for libel, you could have your free speech. The government's not going to say, well, you can't do something libelous. First thing, we're going to let the court sort that out. So the way I view it is that the actual speech shouldn't be imposed by government. It doesn't mean that if I say something right now that you don't like and you were joking about that Marvel thing, you could kick me off at any time. It's just that the United States government can't say, well, Andrew, you don't like Marvel comics. You can't talk anymore. And we're going to come fine you for saying Marvel sucks and DC go. Type of thing.
You're treading on thin ice there, mister.
At any given point, I'm going to be kicked off. I understand that. But again, free speech doesn't apply between you and me. It applies only between government and its citizens. And so that's how I view freedom of speech.
So do you think someone should be able to say that they want to murder the president?
I mean, it gets a little complicated. I mean, if you say, we've seen this, that there's been things that have been stated like that to publicly out marches. Now, was it a direct threat? That I'm a little bit torn on that, but I think that you should be saying,
I know, that's why I brought it up.
I think you have to take where it's coming from also. If somebody is saying, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying I would say this, but if somebody says, I want to murder the president on May the 4th, and I'm going to go and storm Washington, D.C., and I'm going to make it happen, I got 15 drones, that's a little bit more of a step in the direction. But if you say, hey, jokingly and flippantly, hey, I would murder the president, that's a little bit different, where I think it depends on the circumstance. I think it depends on how far you want to go. I also think it depends on context. But obviously, I think you have to put context around it when you're doing that. I mean, how many times have you said, man, I would kill that son of a bitch, right?
Nope.
But you get where I'm going with this.
Nice try, DJ Vlad. You almost tried to get me to confess something on the air. Nope. Not
He's
that
done it.
slick.
He just did it right before we went on air.
He comes in with his with his comic talk and his baby face. You just expect me to admit the crimes on the air.
Huh. You have to understand I'm Jewish and I know a bunch of lawyers. You'll get off.
Yeah, sure I will. Yeah, not out there in Connecticut where they practice. They don't know Illinois law.
We'll get you on with Tim Bristol on the food truck out there in Bristol, Connecticut. Okay, so there's our 4 down territory. So interesting as I thought. Since you brought up free speech, I want to share my screen with you on something here. I was going to show this anyway.
Make sure it's the right tab, dude.
Yeah, I'll share the right tab. No, I'm going to show the.
And then he left. We are nothing but the paragon of professionalism and just producing excellence. That's what we do here. That's what we do here. Here he is. Come on, let yourself back in.
I hit the. I totally hit the wrong button and I pulled myself off the show. And Doc Fearsome got all happy and said, "Oh, good, no more Dutch on the show." So sorry, you fucks. I'm still here.
Oh,
all right, so here we go. This is from the New York Post today, and it is about Trump's moving forward with his social media platform. So just reading from this real quick. Former President Donald Trump and his team are moving forward with plans to create their own social media platform. Report published Wednesday said, "We're moving forward. We're moving forward." One source familiar with this matter told Fox News, and President Trump will have my voice back one way or the other. The source added, Trump and his team are taking the time to do it right. You have one shot at it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I am interested in your guys' thoughts on this. First of all, Andrew, we'll start with you as the guest. Are you? As now as we're watching a dog.
I was like, come on,
the ad there.
Was it eating garbage or was it putting the laundry?
Yeah, he was putting clothes in the dryer.
I thought it was being quite helpful.
He was being more useful than I am there. I couldn't tell what he was doing. It was so small. But my wife will see that and she'll be like, "What the fuck? How come that dog's doing more than you? You're not even a hamster." But are you going to join the Trump platform if it comes out there? Where are you at on Parler? Those couple things are kind of where I'm going with that.
So there's a few things, and this is actually super, super interesting, is that, and actually I've been telling certain people that you should have your name on Parler. Even if you are a Democrat and you're not a fan of it, you should get your name on every single social media platform for 2 reasons. A, you're protecting your name, and B, somebody else can't take it. So, I actually have to get my name. I have my name on Rumble. I need to get my name on Parler, even if I don't use it, because God forbid, it's the same thing that if you have a name and you want your website, you should probably buy that if you have any intention of being anywhere, regardless of whether you think that platform is going one way or the other, or you ever are on it, or if you ever post anything, you should protect yourself. So obviously, from a protection standpoint, I'm going to join. I actually probably need to create a Parler account tomorrow to make sure that I'm just protecting the several brands I operate. So from a brand perspective, if the only thing you're doing is protecting your brand, you should be on those positions. And then you only have to log in once, protect your name, protect whatever names you want, and then log out and never touch it, because now nobody can hurt you on those platforms per se and steal your name and bad rap your business per se. Especially if things become big enough and, all of a sudden, let's say Trump's thing gets 70 million people, that's a significant amount of people that if somebody wants to go and you're not paying attention to it, and now all of a sudden they could hurt your business if they want to. And whether, you think that you're going to drive business there or not, or it's from the other side of the aisle politically where you stand. So from that perspective, as a protection and as a business, I treat this very differently than on a social level.
Here's the counterpunch to that. You make your site, people look up your name, they find out that that's your business. Now they have a way of tagging you, and now they have a way of group attacking you. So I don't know that it works exactly the way you want, because I mean I've been on YouTube for like what 4 or 5 years now. Yeah, there's some nasty people out there. By by joining, I don't join their discords to go and defend myself. I don't join their discords so that I can see what they're up to. I don't. The courts have a way of sorting all of that out. You know what I mean? And if you're saying to like protect your name so someone else doesn't have it, all they're gonna do is they're gonna put, okay, looks like Andrew Davis got his name, the real Andrew Davis, and you're screwed. Like there's so many loopholes. So like you'll never catch me with a Parler account. And I've said that so many times. If anyone should ever see my name on Parler, it's probably not the real Mikey Famine, because you
are on Parler. I run the account, and you are up to no good. Just so you know.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Maybe I come at this from a different angle, because I have been aimed at, attacked on Facebook. People have written horrific reviews on my Facebook page because they disagreed with certain policies of mine that I threw out there, which I thought were rather reasonable policies. People have called me transphobic, which is absolutely ridiculous, and it was pretty libel in what it was saying, because it was the furthest from the truth. So I've been attacked on public platforms by people who have come after me, and they went after me hard. Now, I don't go cry. I come back right back at you, and I play different games. I actually consulted a lawyer. And this story I haven't really spoken about with anybody, but I went and I actually sat in a lawyer's office to figure out what we were going to do. So I don't fuck around when it comes to this type of stuff. So I come at it from a different position where I want to own everything with my name associated with it, so nobody else even gets the ball. You know, that's how I view it, because I've been where people have come after me. So I would rather be able to control something and have my name just protected, because I've worked my ass off to get my name's brands. And I'm in the process of trademarking, and that's the other thing at the same time, is that I don't want any issues with trademarking. So when I go and create an account on Rumble and I use certain names, I'm trademarking those names. So that's also the other reason why, is that I don't have those legal protections in, and that stuff is expensive. You know, to trademark what I want to trademark, it's going to be rather expensive across 6-7 brands.
But how far do you go with that? I mean, are you going to put your name on Tinder just to have it on Tinder as well, so no one can, you know what I mean? Like,
so I'm putting a company's name out there. I'm not putting my personal name out there.
Mecca Davis looking for women 18 to 36.
so I'm not on Tinder. Yeah, but I get the argument, is that how far you go. It's just that I know that certain things are down there, and I also know that certain things are popular. Like being on Rumble, it's not going to hurt me one way or the other. You know, I'm actually going to rethink about the Parler argument, to be honest, because there is a fair point about Parler. But you know, Trump's social media network, you know, I might not. I don't know, but. I mean, I might create a locals account, which is Dave Rubin's.
I can tell you right now, it's not going to be too different from what it was. Dan Bonadino, I believe is how you say his name, who was one of the owners of Parler, and like I understood what they were doing with Parler. Like I was like, okay, it's fine. You want to start your own conservative site, that's fine. But see, like Parler was so, and I have a Parler account. I haven't logged into it since the Capitol riots, but I'm so glad that I had it that day, because you know I was screenshotting stuff leading up to that. You know, I even went over this with Mikey. I have 24 screenshots of people literally making threats, like, you know, right after the Proud Boy comment during the debate, the stand back and stand by, you know, and right during the Capitol riots and stuff like that. And it's important to be able to say, look, if somebody says to me, Dutch, you're out of your fucking mind, you're paying too much attention to CNN and the New York Times. None of that ever happened on Parler. They were just, attacked because they were conservative. And I can pull out my phone and show you 22, 23 pictures, screenshots of stuff. And I'm sure they'll tell me that I edited it. I get that. But now you're really going out there, because why am I going to waste that much time into substantiating my argument. Now, maybe I'm just a liberal, crazy asshole, but it's pretty important, I think, to be able to say, look, this is what happened. And I mean, we showed that stuff live on the air. It's on video, just Googling terms. And I'm using Google as a
Proxy.
A proxy, right, for whatever the search was on Parler. When I parlored and searched these things on there, and we went through it and we combed through, and it's live on video, and you can't go back and say any of that was fake.
I showed it for 10 minutes and I was like, oh, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, and then it just got nauseating. So and Parler they were so hands-offish that it spewed a lot of extreme hate and extreme trouble, because I really believe that free speech is great, and I lean libertarian. I'm a big fan of free speech, but again, like you said, I think it needs to have consequences. You can say whatever you want, but you don't get to say whatever you want without consequences.
So I'll give you an example, and I don't mean to interrupt. I had this discussion with somebody that I interviewed, and this is the argument that we had. Is I said, if I say you're an asshole, but then you get assaulted by somebody who was watching me, and I said you're an asshole, am I responsible because they assaulted you because I said you're an asshole? Because this is where this example becomes.
Well, it comes into it. All right, it comes into this though.
Because I get the Parler argument, and I get what you're saying, where something leads into an action and how far. It's kind of like, and I think everybody's been through, the entire thing with Trump, and he said, we're going to march down there. How far does it go in plausible deniability and all that stuff? And I don't want to hash that out there. But if I say, hey, I don't like Dutch, and then somebody's watching.
Me wouldn't be the first one. Oh wait.
But then
for example,
who's a fan of mine then goes and finds you and beats you with a bike lock. Am I responsible for that? Because that's where we're going.
Let me answer that real quick. All right, so here's where the left turn becomes 4 left turns, and you go into and you're making a right. The question becomes, why are you calling me an asshole? Okay, so I'll make an example with this with the transgender community. The church. I've been getting into a lot of heated discussions with the church, with my friends in churches and people within the church and my family members within the church about their talk on homosexuality and transgender, and it's like it's twofold. When you preach. And I'm going to have a guest on, by the way, from my men's Bible study group on the 14th. So it'll be very interesting on the show. He's a very reasonable guy. I really like him. But one of the things that we talked about in group was, I said, you guys, because they're talking about, gays and they're preaching about, that, why can't we just say a man is a man, as a woman is a woman, et cetera, et cetera. When you sit there and you say with one side of your mouth that every sin is a sin and every sin is equal, but you spend 5 hours on sin A and 5 seconds on theft, then it does not become proportionate. So that sort of talk breeds into a distrust and the feeling that you are being attacked. So like your worldview, your belief system is under attack from this outside sinister force. Otherwise, why would we not spend as much time talking about adultery or theft or coveting your neighbor's lawnmower as we do about homosexuals?
He's got a nice riding John Deere, though, that son of a bitch, and it bags it too. Seen him go over the mulch. Oh, it's nice.
How dare you talk about that? So it's and you get the point. The point is that when you focus so much on stuff and then you create the culture that this person is attacking your worldview, then you could be responsible for something if someone or play a part in it, at least let's say, when someone says that they heard what you said and they decided to take action on what you said because you sold them a bill of goods. That doesn't just go one way. You could say the same thing about like the Bernie Sanders guy who shot up the baseball game. They said that the politicians were keeping us from getting health care. That guy took action and he was wrong for that. Was Bernie Sanders responsible in that case? No. Was Trump directly responsible for some of the things that he had said in the past? No. Others, yes, I believe. But, if you're saying Dutch is an asshole because he's just trying to destroy the church from within, let's say that you said that for a reason, and then someone from the church says, no, I'm protecting my God and my country and my children's ability to go to heaven. I don't want Dutch corrupting them. And then he comes and kicks my ass. Now we have a different problem.
So with the whole like free speech absolutism and the libertarian views that people have on these things, it's very ass backwards, because it's almost like you forget where you live. We don't live in Constitution land. We live in America. We know what America is. We know how America reacts. I could make up a headline right now and ask both of you, what do you think the public's reaction is going to be? And you guys would probably both have the same answer. We know Americans very well. And with all that being said, we know what words can and should not be used in certain circumstances. So when people say shit and they hype people up and they say, yeah, the Mexicans are just stealing jobs and voting illegally, and then we wonder why we can't get any kind of any real immigration reform passed through. It's because these people have been poisoned by the dogma of these kinds of speech. That's what I'm saying with like the lines in the sand and shit like that, because it's not so much that the government shouldn't say like active threats on people. Yeah, that should be bannable speech. That should be speech that you should definitely be held accountable for. But when it comes to people poisoning the discourse, when it comes to people indoctrinating young people and shit like that, we have to have lines in the sand. So even if the government doesn't do it, then I think as a society, but I'm thinking as a society, because the law is the law, but the society lives kind of in and around the law.
So
the law is reflected by culture. So,
I'll give
No, it's not.
Sure, absolutely it is, because as culture changes, laws change. There's
tons of things that we find morally and ethically irreprehensible that are legal, and vice versa.
Yeah, but you're right. Legal doesn't mean good.
I'll give you a cultural law. So in the UK, what side do they drive on?
They drive on the left.
What side do we drive on in America, the US? So that's a cultural law, meaning there's nothing wrong with the left or right side driving.
No, there's the right side and there's the right side, and then there's the wrong side. Like they're driving on the wrong side of the road. I'm joking. It's joking.
But that's a cultural thing, meaning that if America wanted to drive on the left side of the road, that could happen if we wanted it to happen.
Right. You're talking about plausible things like that, or like the metric system versus the English system, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So right. that's an example of cultural law. It's not the best example, but things obviously evolve. I mean, look at Justice Kennedy with the entire gay marriage case. And look, I'm not saying gay marriage is simply solved in the snap of a finger by a Supreme Court, decision, but parts of it are to some degree, where that solved the issue and he decided, and that was a big cultural shift. That was not that was complete cultural, and that was a complete evolution. And it took a long time, and it was fought for a huge amount of time. My point is that wasn't just because of non-cultural issues. That was a cultural movement that began in the 70s in an underground environment, and then began 20 years prior to that in an underground movement. So obviously cultural does define loss to some degree, but then other things like murder.
But if what you're saying is true, then it wouldn't have taken decades and decades and decades to happen.
Sure, it would have, because you had to wait for culture to change.
Right. So leading things by what the like your cultural laws thing, I'm just outright rejecting it, because it's bullshit. Because if you're part of any sort of minority group or any kind of oppressed group, then you may not survive until the culture shifts. So when you
okay, you're making a different point though. You're making the point is whether or not law. I think here. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Because where you're going is like, you may not survive for that that time while you're being oppressed by the current culture and the current law. So, but the argument that seems like that you're making is that we should change it regardless of how of what the social culture is. But the fact of the matter is that you have to.
People can't. You can't wait 100 years to say, maybe we should not stone gay people in the streets.
I
You know what
get
I'm
you
saying?
100%
Like
on
that's
that.
that's the worst argument for
So
our legal system.
But that's not the argument that I'm making. That's not
In America, I also think though that America, and I'm not saying America is perfect, but we are one of the most tolerant countries, if the most tolerant country, because we could
means
take
nothing.
this.
That means nothing.
But it does mean something, because in order for culture and laws to change, there has to be tolerance. So to use gay marriage, the only thing in gay marriage that was being suppressed, and there's a few other things that came out of this, was the actual element of marriage, healthcare, living apartments. It wasn't the ability to perform your job, even though there was discrimination there. And I get that there's flaws in what I'm saying.
See how that's attached. Like that's what
No,
I'm
no,
saying.
But you weren't being, and I understand that people were killed over this, people were all sorts of stuff. But the idea is that it was only a certain section; it wasn't the whole suppression. And so, obviously, when you say survival, disabilities is a big issue. I have a disability. Disabilities have been suppressed, but it's only a small aspect. I get that aspect can be 40%. I'm not saying it's not any of that, but it wasn't 100% suppression. It wasn't a Korematsu case where legitimately Japanese Americans were being detained and were being completely 100% suppressed.
But that should not be your bar. And I think that's foolish to use that as a bar. Like we can't take the worst thing that we could, well, aside from out and out murdering them, this is like the worst thing you can do to them is to put them in internment camps and legit just make them slaves. Like that's wrong and bad, but we don't use that. But that's not the bar of morality. That's not the bar of efficacy. And if we use and if we wait for the law to catch up, there's a lot of people that get caught up in the swing of the pendulum. And what I'm saying is
laws always catch up. It's just a fact.
They don't always, because we still don't have an equal rights amendment.
You're right.
We still don't have an equal rights amendment, and we're like 280 years old. So
no, you're right. They don't always catch up. But again, I think what I'm not arguing that we should wait for society to catch up. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that society had to get to a place where you have when you're dealing with a democracy or a Republican democracy, you have to have the votes in order to make the change. Now, you could make an example, say that maybe there was some monarch who, like Siddhartha, the Buddha, that he saw this suffering, and then had he not become the Buddha and instead became the king, that he could have gone in and just imposed something. But of course, then you would have had, if society wasn't ready for that, they would have fought back against it. But outside of that, when you're in a government of the people that is supposed to be making, voting for people who are going to push the laws that the people are saying that they want in that particular community, you have to get the community has to at large support that in order to be able to even put those things on the table. I am not against what you are saying. I am 100% with you in that we don't want to wait for things to catch up. We want to start to try to push our ideas through when it comes to things like healthcare and stuff like that. Because right now we're at a place where healthcare is supported by over 50% of Americans. So universal healthcare. So we should be able to get this in place relatively soon. Unfortunately, it's being fought by people with money and PACs and stuff like that. But 20 years ago, that argument was not that it did not have enough popular support in order for it to become a real possibility with law. So that is the argument that I'm making, is that historically speaking, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying we're not, this is not is versus ought. I'm just talking about the is. The is says
I know what
that
the is
you
is.
have to have it supported in order to do it. You're saying that's not right, and we shouldn't be content with that, I think. And I agree with that.
Okay.
If that's what you're saying.
So if you're agreeing with me, then let me finish. So that's what I'm saying. So now that the culture is shifting, I'm hearing that, well, the law and like, no, if the people are the ones who affect the laws by both of your own words. So if the culture is affected by the people, then when you poison the people, which will in turn make the laws and vote for the people that make the laws, that's why there has to be lines in the sand now. Because
I agree with that 100%.
Because if not, it is going to be another 250
Mm-hmm.
years before we stop doing this, and another 250 years before we stop doing that. We can't let people like just sit in the mire of our own fucking incontinence. Like, this is stupid. We know healthcare should be a right. We all know that. If someone is born, they are alive or a person, and if I have to hear one more fucking evangelical tell me about the fucking womb, but then as soon as somebody has fucking cancer, they say, well, sell your fucking house. Fuck you. What happened to all lives matter? Fuck you. You don't get to fucking eat anymore, and your kids don't get to go to school because you got sick. Like, we care about people until we have to take care of them. And that's fucking wrong. We have to start changing that shit now. Like, that's why, like, I'm hearing the free speech stuff, but it pisses me off because we can't love each other's.
There's two separate
we can't love each other
on that.
We can't
Healthcare
hold on
is not free speech.
We can't love each other's free speech and their rights as Americans, but then also not treat them like Americans. So if I'm going to protect fucking neo-Nazis, right, to Sig Heil and do all his dumb shit, we need to also be able to take care of our people. We need to also be able to safeguard and protect our own citizens from our own citizens against the whirlwind and cyclone of bullshit that they've been eating and feeding off for the last 20, 30 years.
So if you're talking about, I don't get how healthcare and free speech are related, because I view healthcare as, and I could agree or disagree with you on healthcare, but my position on free speech is that I think that more ideas are always better. It was Justice Brandeis, I believe, said the solution to more speech, to speech you don't like, is more speech. Now, here's what I think has happened with speech. I think we have a bunch of political pundits who only give a shit about ratings, like CNN, MSNBC, ABC News, Fox News, and Fox News might be the best at it. And I think when you talk about poisoning the well, you look at Rachel Maddow and you look at Tucker Carlson. Have either one of them done anything ultimately good, or have they been more divisive to Americans? So that's
divisive is a loaded word. So if you don't want to explain it, that's cool. But if you're going to use that one, I need you to explain what you mean by divisive.
What I mean is that they sort of rally off. Maybe divisive is not the right word. They sort of, I guess, gatekeep the troops into the parties, and then they force people to not want to talk to one another because it becomes an echo chamber on both sides of the aisle. So when we talk about the problems of dialogue, because dialogue is different than because free speech is a part of that as well. Right. Where one of the biggest problems in the United States is that people aren't talking to each other. Right now, obviously, I think it's safe to say, Mikey, you're on the left, and you're hard on.
I'm a revolutionary. I'm not a Democrat.
Fair enough, but you are clearly way more progressive than me. I think that's a fair statement.
I'm a secular humanist, and all I care about is people.
Okay. So I tend to be a libertarian. So what'd you say?
And then he froze. What?
And I said he cares about people and popcorn.
Oh, that's so obviously I am a libertarian who believes that people can ultimately make the best decisions for themselves, and that governments, while governments are needed, I think governments need to lax a little bit off of people and let people actually have free commerce.
So let me pause you on that point. Do you have any proof that Americans can take better care of themselves in the last 50 years?
I mean, I think that just in general, people can. And I mean, I've seen that governments in general, I don't think have done much for people. I think governments have done more harm for people. And so I think the definition of insanity is where we're going right now. So I don't know what proof exactly.
So where did let me ask you this. So where do you think the progress that we have made, and we still have a long way to go, obviously, in a lot of areas, but the progress that we've made since, say, the Civil Rights Act, let's just use that as a benchmark. 1964, 1965, those two pieces of legislation. Where has the progress come from? Has it come from the private sector, from the government, or from somewhere else? aliens, maybe.
I feel that it's been a bit initiated by government, a little bit, but I think the private sector has driven a boatload of it. I really feel like the private sector has. I do not feel that the government has driven most of it. I feel that the only thing the government has done is that they've given massive tax breaks to big Silicon Valley and other tech companies that has allowed them to
and
further that.
and Walmart and
Yeah,
Amazon. It
and
doesn't.
oil and
Yeah,
medical.
And Tesla. But let's not joke
but
ourselves
but
about
I
Elon
mean,
Musk.
but we can't joke about, we can't put, you meant big tech, big tech, big tech. Walmart is probably the worst thing that could ever happen to a struggling community, because it's going to shut down all the mom and pops, all the small businesses, and they pay
Right.
almost nothing in taxes. And they pay their people
and
the
they're
worst.
a magnet for Target and for TJ Maxx and for other companies coming in around that. I'm not super anti Walmart, but I am anti Walmart to the degree where, and Amazon for that matter. I think I'm more afraid of Amazon than I am of Walmart, because Amazon, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but Amazon has this tendency now to brand their own products with Amazon and then sell those products. So you're not only just a retailer, now you're selling every single product that's out there with your own product as an alternative, and that leads to massive problems.
It's a bigger issue with
Right,
that as well.
a different issue than what we're talking about. But I would argue that that the changes that have come in the private sector, like for example, the evolution of human resources departments into protecting the employee rather than just protecting the company, while making sure that everyone filled out their forms properly. That was as far as they went. Obviously their job still in human resources is to protect the company from a legal perspective,
Yeah.
but they also have transitioned that now into making sure that employees are actually happy and have and know where those resources are. That has come from social pressure, which has caused court system to put in various rulings which say that companies need to do this, and companies don't just do it on their own, so they have to use human resources as that method of enforcement, so to speak.
So
Now
so
maybe
so
it's
yeah, I'll counter a little bit about that. So one of the things that Costco has done is that they've figured out whether it's that social pressure and maybe even from the government a little bit of that as well, and then sort of the stick with the carrot a little bit, saying, hey, we're not going to bother you too much if you actually do a little bit more of the right thing, is probably in there somewhere as well. But Costco has come to the conclusion, and for whatever reason, that they pay their employees a little bit better than minimum wage. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole to prove the point, but they said, hey, in order to maintain our employees, we actually have to treat them decently. We have to take care of them. We also want to hire from within. If there's a manager position, somebody's been working for us for 7 years, we want to upgrade people within our organization, because they've come to the conclusion that it's not, easy to find good employees anymore, and that you have to keep them. And so I think that is somewhat out of the private sector, whether that's just out of capitalism, whether that's out of this idea of, carrot stick, human resource, as you were saying, or the social pressure, or maybe it's a combination of all that stuff. And so that's when I say the private sector is, and I'm not saying, it's perfect, but at a certain point, I do think that the private sector has taken some of the ball and said, hey, this makes us more efficient. And if people are happier, or they feel that they're treated better, or if the minimum wage is $10 and we're paying them $10.50, they're going to stick around. So I think that's sort of the private sector position. And I'm not saying that solved every progression, because obviously gay marriage, I don't feel has been driven out of necessarily capitalism. I think it's been driven out of human tolerance. I think in the last 60 years, and I'm a big proponent of gay marriage. It doesn't bother me at all. Obviously, I've interviewed a bunch of gay people. I interviewed the leader of the gay underground comics movement very early on in my interview career. So I am not a problem with that. I'm very libertarian, as I stated. I'm definitely purple in that realm. And so, but I think that's come out of just tolerance and
So-
that progression. But as far as companies and things like that with workers, I think it's probably a combination of all of it. Now that you brought that one up.
So trivia question for both of you. Let's see who can get closer to the actual number. Don't cheat if you're playing. Play along in the chat if you're watching along. Guess how many Walmart stores there are, and guess how many Costco stores there are in the U.S.
3,300 Walmart stores.
33 for Dutch. 33 Huno. What you think about how many Costco's?
390.
How about you, Andrew?
Oh man, I know how many people go into Walmart a year, so I'm trying to figure it out.
Oh, look at him cheating. He got background information, insider trading.
We see Google in your eyeglasses.
Yeah, the reflection of Google.
I'm not Googling. My hands are up.
Hand check.
So I think there's 3,500 Walmarts in the U.S.
3,500. How about
And
Costco?
What are you playing? The Price is Right? You just went right under me?
$1, Bob.
I thought you said 3,300
Yeah,
Walmarts, and I'm gonna say maybe 500 Costco's.
Okay.
I truly have no idea. So
All I know is that over 200 million unique people come into Walmart every single year in the U.S.
are you counting Walmart neighborhood market grocery stores?
Don't start with me.
So cool
He bidded you out anyway. You're already gonna lose. He got so close to you.
What is it, like
what is
11?
it, like 3,800?
It's 4,756. 4,756. That's how many Walmarts there are. Because you're talking about Walmart and da. But then Costco was saying, they figured out that they should do more for their people, and there's 558 Costco's in the U.S. So from almost $5,000 to 500. Hope you live next to a Costco, because that's the one fucking company that's actually going to look out for you. And that's
just to talk about this.
Yeah.
Cool fact about Walmart: over 200 million. So over 200 unique people come into Walmart every single year. So that means that if you visit Walmart 9 times, you're counted once in the U.S. 85% of Americans live within 5 miles of a Walmart. It is scary how much reach Walmart has in America. It is terrifying.
And that's why I always say to people, I say this all the time. It's astonishing to me that people fear the government so much, when who they really should be fearing is Google, Walmart, Amazon, and a handful of other companies. Facebook, I don't think so, because you don't necessarily have to be on Facebook, but if you choose not to play the social media game, you don't have to play the social media game. That's not dependent on your life. But Walmart, even if you go there or not, it does have an ancillary effect on your life, because they affect cost, they affect wages. Amazon affects costs and wages. Google affects privacy, cost, and wages. So, it's, every time you Uber, they sell that information to Google. If you've ever wondered why you Uber to the store, and then the Jimmy John's next door, you see an ad for Jimmy John's, and look, magically, there's Jimmy John's right next door, or a tire shop or whatever.
You know what Walmart is building right now?
I've heard that they're building. My daughter, this is not the right answer. Yeah,
they're building that next week. That's next week.
This is not the right answer, but my daughter showed me a conspiracy theory video that they're building death camps inside of the Walmart, and that they're going to eventually kill us all inside of the Walmart. There's going to be an indoor with nobody coming out. So
what Walmart actually is building is something. They're building a bank. What they're doing is they're entering a space called fintech. So fintech is financial tech, and there's a bunch of stuff like that out there. So think Robinhood. Robinhood is a financial tech company.
Right.
And so what they've done is that there's this thing called Goldman Sachs. I'm sure some people might have heard of it. And Goldman Sachs used to be a bank where you needed to have about $10 million to get into Goldman Sachs. Now you need 1,000, because Goldman Sachs came to the conclusion that they can get more business and generate more money with an account called Marcus. Marcus, you only need $1,000. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that by definition. They lowered it. $1,000 is a hell of a lot of a cheaper price to get in. So now, what Walmart did is that they recruited the people who developed Marcus to start a financial tech bank in Walmart. So now what Walmart's entering into, and I don't know the full details, it's like brand new. This maybe came out 3 weeks ago. So I mean, this is a brand new story. So what they've come into is that you might be able to get your mortgage from Walmart. You might be able to get, your a loan from Walmart. You may be able to process your car from Walmart. You may be able to
Yeah.
take out money, put money into Walmart. And what's terrifying is that, well, all of a sudden, I mean, it could be good and bad. Technically speaking, there's a lot of people who don't trust, debit cards or they don't want to do online banking. And if you live within 5 miles of a Walmart, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a bank, especially if their bank is open 16 hours a day. That's not a terrible thing per se. But at the same time, they have a fuckload of data on you. Okay, there's 350 million people in America. Walmart has data on 200 million plus people in America. So you want to talk about a company that has data?
Well, Google has like 290. So they're still
But my
you're
point,
talking about effectively the same problem I was talking about with Amazon, where it's just another product, it's another monopoly, and that's why I tell people capitalism is far more dangerous than socialism. That's not to say socialism is a perfect system, but capitalism is far more dangerous than socialism, and I can tell you why. Because, and I've said this before, if I have a problem with my government, I can run for office. If I have a problem with IBM, I do not get to run for the board of IBM. So I have an element of a voice within government because I can make free speech to the government. I don't get to make free speech to IBM because IBM can sue me. This is a litigious society if they feel that I'm damaging their brand.
That's assuming though a caveat that you in a socialist government can run for office. Because
what evidences would there be that in a socialist government I can't run for office? We're not talking about Leninist Marxism here. We're talking about socialism as a pure construct, not talking about Leninist communism. Those are two very different things. Capitalism can be corrupted and socialism has been corrupted.
I have several friends that live in social democracies right now. Pretty chill.
Yeah, it's like, bro,
do they live in social democracies or socialism as a whole thing? Like, because socialism has never been achieved. But what I mean is that a country like Denmark is different than, when we talk about complete socialism.
But pure capitalism has never been achieved either, because our government has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger since the New Deal. So that's not a particularly persuasive argument. Again, I don't believe that pure socialism I think it could work just fine, but I also think that it needs capitalist injections into it in a lot of ways to help with the dispersal of wealth and income, and to provide opportunity. I think that you can find a good marriage between both of those things.
Like literally talking weekly to someone who is a business owner who lives in a social democracy. He's like, yeah, I pay a shit ton in taxes, but my kids, if they get sick, go to the hospital. My nan, if she gets sick, she goes to the hospital. They can go to school. And when I had my kids, we had 300 days of maternity leave getting paid at 80% that came from the ground. Like, these safeguards work. They're good. They help people. And again, that's all I'm here to help. I don't give a fuck about some weird group's right to say some weird shit. Does it help people? I like that's the bare bones of this. So like, but again, that's poisoning of the well, where people always want to talk about socialism. That's going to lead to communism. That's going to lead to totalitarianism. And it turns always into this large, crazy thing.
The Red Scare. We talk about the Red Scare. Like, look, we talk about a history topic on this show every single week. Mikey, how many of the topics that we've talked about, at least since we started talking, maybe except for slavery and colonism, colonialism, I think every topic has had a red scare of some sort in it.
Yeah, it's always the commies. The commies are coming, man. They're right around the corner. We got to look out for the commies. They're on their way.
So this is my thing about socialism is that it does need injections of capital, and certain sectors will always need injections of capital.
I agree.
Medical research is a
Need,
big
I don't
one.
know about need, but would be better. See, it's okay that you could say that socialism could work without it, but I think it would work better with it. And I think that's the important part of it.
So my entire thing is that. So I'll give a great example of this. So medical advancements. If there was no money in medical advancements, and we'll use a great one, laser eye surgery. Laser eye surgery 30 years ago was really, really expensive. We're talking like 20, 30 grand. Laser eye surgery now is like 5 grand. And the reason why it's come down is because there's a lot more people now doing it. The technology's gotten better. It is, a cash out of pocket. It's not covered by insurance because it's not a mandatory surgery, which I think it's fair that it's not a mandatory surgery. And I think that, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I don't think that you're entitled to laser eye surgery. I don't think that you're entitled to that. You might be entitled to chemo.
That's not an important discussion at this point, but yeah, I see what you're saying. But
I
don't agree with you, but that's going to just bring us down a rabbit hole.
My point is that I think that because there's been money to develop drugs and there's been a capital incentive that has driven down costs.
But where does the R&D, who funds the R&D?
I mean, I think sometimes it's government. I also think sometimes it's shareholders.
Shareholders it's Americans. It's Americans.
Yeah.
Because if the government, if the American government is subsidizing these big pharma companies,
right,
they're getting their money from us. They don't make shit. All they do is fucking spend our money. So if they're going to be the ones funding it, and we're the ones that are funding it, why do we have the highest prescription costs? Because they'll make the money off of us, and then they'll get it for cheaper over there because they know damn well that people are not paying fucking $600 for an EpiPen overseas. I'm like, you can keep them then. We'll find somebody else who has a knockoff.
Yeah, and they'll get them for $6. And part of that, just to be fair, part of that is that generally, if it comes to the United States, it goes to the United States first. And just like when a big screen TV comes out, the price is higher for a minute. And I get that. But these things are sustained and growing. Like you made the argument about LASIK. I'll counter you with MRIs, X-ray. Those things have been around. My mom got cancer from going to the dentist and getting an X-ray. That's how old that technology is, right? But yet an X-ray with the same machine that they've had since the 80s, the same black pad that they put over you that my grandpa used, the exact same one. They haven't sold it yet. Yet somehow the cost of an X-ray, if I don't have insurance, is 30 to 40 times what it was in the 50s. That makes no sense. They paid for that equipment already. So they just keep recycling the same technology. They might get it 2% better. This isn't even as much advancement as you get from iPhone to iPhone. Which by the way is another thing where the cost is outrageous on fucking $1,300 for a goddamn phone. Go fuck yourself. But so real quick, we do got to segue into the history topic here. So
just 1 second while I just plug in my Mac. Sorry, everybody.
No worries. We don't want to lose you.
It's gonna take like 3 seconds.
We'll circle back. I'm sure that we'll find a way to circle back into this. So, Mikey, I sent you the Haas's part in the group chat. So we're going to talk about our history topic here real quick with our friend Andrew Mecca Davis.
It's just Andrew Davis. That's just fun.
Okay, AD.
I'm an anime mecha fan. That's all it's relating to.
So
I get you, but that's how I know you.
And also, Dutch. A note here from the chat. Google Eats writes, Mr. Dutch, your Dutch for Governor signs have shipped. You may also be interested in Nirvana's Nevermind CD.
Yes, I want the NTS to it. NFT.
There you go.
I want the NFT to the copy that I get. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's about time after 6 months that I get some love from the chat. So
hey, Google Eats is everywhere. Google Eats shows up to all the streams that I'm a part of and just ships out anything that you could ever dream of wanting. It's already shipped. Then the notification just comes up in the chat.
I just decided I wanted chicken parmesan, and my door. There's someone's knocking at my door asking me for 90. And the money's already out of my account, and I haven't even turned on my phone yet.
I'm trying to like completely like furbish this new townhouse. I would love if Google or Apple wants to like have a little chip in my brain, because I always am like, I was gonna order something. Fuck. An ottoman. That's what it was. But it takes me several days. If they could just like get it shipped, just pull the money right out of my account. It's all fine. There's no gold back in the money anymore.
We shipped you the golden calf version of the ottoman. It's going to be $73,000. All right. So my 8th grade social studies teacher, Mr. Humble, taught me things that turns out, after doing my own research, heard that before, wasn't exactly the whole story. And today, the topic that we will discuss is the rise of neoconservatism in the United States, or as they affectionately call it, America. So conservative thought is based in small r republicanism, which rejected monarchies as tyrannical and upheld the basic ideas laid out in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No, Haas is not here. See, I wrote this when I thought he was going to be here. No, Mikey, I'm not talking about the Will Smith movie, okay?
Are you talking about the Will Smith? Oh, shit.
Yeah. Conservative philosophy also derives in part from the classical liberal tradition, which promotes laissez-faire economics and corporate deregulation. And now I bring you to read Haas's portion, The Amazing Mos Def.
Yeah, so like while historians assert conservative principles have played a major role in U.S. politics since the revolution, they also note that an organized conservative movement with more separate cultural beliefs did not fully emerge until the 1950s, but has roots in the 1937 Congressional Conservative Coalition, CCC, where conservative Republicans and Southern Democrats together played a key role in Congress, since in those days each party had a liberal and conservative wing. And Andrew, if you want to cut in at any point, just yell pause or something like that, and then I have to stop.
Yes, that's the rules.
That is, them's is the rules, so feel free to interrupt. This so-called movement, conservatism, which was made up of libertarians, traditionalists, and anti-communists, which by the 50s meant pretty much all of America, had the stated goal of fighting the New Deal, preferring Jeffersonian ideas of being self-sufficient and limiting the federal government's size and influence, aided by Second Amendment gun rights and by 10th Amendment ideas of deferring non-defined governing powers. Oh, I gotta scroll down. This is really long, Dutch. Governing power to states. The idea evolved in the wake of mass immigration with support of right-leaning libertarians into promoting ideas of American and Western exceptionalism and defending tradition, which, like most nationalism movements, advocates for a strong national defense, law enforcement, and restricting gun ownership to law-abiding citizens, aka the known and therefore the safe.
Thank you, Mos Def. Where the modern movement further evolved was in areas of religion. Specifically, they believed that the ultimate key in America becoming great was fostered by our collective Judeo-Christian morality. In order to maintain God's favored nation status, modern Republicans pull a Tim Hardaway killer crossover, shifting from the 10th Amendment alliance with libertarians on limiting federal powers in favor of strong federal action in Christian identity politics wedge issues, most notably the opposition of abortion and same-sex marriage, as well as support for Christian prayer in public schools and government funding for private Christian schools, who, of course, let me finish the sentence, who, of course, get the benefit of not playing by the rules, but still getting funded as if they do play by the rules.
Wasn't 1957 when they put In God We Trust on the money?
1956 was the year that they added, 1956 or 57 was the year that they added under God to the pledge.
When did they put that on?
So
the money?
you might be correct about that, though I do not know the answer to that. Andrew can look that up for us. Yeah,
it was like
I'm sure he knows.
It was an anti-comedy thing where they just wanted to put that in there because they thought all the
Tim Bristol, tell us. He just knows.
Yeah,
fucking Commander Data.
Tim's out there somewhere. He knows.
I mean, I have no idea any of this, and obviously, I mean, I get part of this entire rise, where I believe strong social fabrics are super important in communities, and then people who tend to have religion, and in the Jewish community, I can speak from that, growing up Jewish, you know, there is a social community when you're in a temple and you're within your fellow people, and then you know other people, and you're all celebrating sort of communal holidays. And obviously, I grew up in Westchester, New York, and I grew up in Yorktown of all places.
Westchester,
fucking Westchester.
There's pet stop.
There's certain things I grew up in. I went to Yorktown High School, so that should give everybody an idea of
not my Yorktown. Yorktown.
We don't speak in the Boston.
Yorktown, Boston. I'm giving you my Boston, New York attitude here. Yeah. So you're going to learn a little bit more here. So,
go ahead.
Fascinating.
So how did we get here today?
I don't know.
We're not going to go all the way to Trump, but we're going to go to Nixon here. So, in the 1960s,
I'm not a crook.
I'm not. Yes, you are, but you are still president. In the universe of The Watchmen. So, how did we get here? In the 1960s, I'm sorry, Robert Redford is, but Nixon went like 12 terms. In the 1960s, two ideas were common among Americans: that the ever increasing size of the federal government was bad, and so was communism, which was not only bad, but it was anti-God and set up government as the state religion. There is some historical truth here, most well known in the horrendous 1920s USSR anti-religious campaigns, mostly against the Orthodox Church, and Lenin's desire to eradicate Islam. But this Soviet oppression was then falsely promoted as atypical of any socialist regime. But anyway, the real target was initially the virtue, that virtue was the essence of America, leading to us to the 1964 election.
Pause.
Where Lyndon Johnson,
July 30th, 1956, "In God We Trust" added to the pledge. Thank you, tons of
so it was right around the same thing, around at the same time. Astonishing, isn't it? That they would add both those things at the same time.
Wasn't there also a bunch of stuff with like Supreme Court cases and prayer in school and all that stuff, or was that the 70s?
The prayer in school? No, the prayer in school was 1989.
Wow,
when they said you couldn't prayer in school, when they said you couldn't say prayer in school, and I think that was reiterated about 10 years later. Somebody correct me in the chat, because I feel like it was 89, but it might have been 79. Somebody look that up for me and correct me, because I wasn't expecting that question, so go fuck yourself. But this leads us to the 1964 election, where Lyndon Johnson defeated Barry Goldwater by a landslide.
Pause.
But the key,
the U.S. Supreme Court banned school-sponsored prayer in public schools in 1962.
Really? It was in 1962?
Yeah, I thought it was.
So what was the court case in the 80s then about that? I'm gonna have to find out what that was, because
maybe it was like the Ten Commandments in front of a church, or maybe it was like a nativity scene and all of that stuff that was going on with religion. And
I'm not sure that any of that's been banned today.
There's a bunch of weird religion stuff out there, and I mean, obviously you have things like the Yoder case, which are fascinating, but that's a whole rabbit hole. But I think Scalia was heavily involved.
Well, Scalia, that's why I'm almost positive that it was in the 80s, because Scalia ruled on one of these cases. And, you know, the great originalist, Anton Scalia, who, of course, was poisoned by the Clintons. So again, Johnson defeated Goldwater in 1964 by a landslide. But the key here was that Goldwater even received the nomination. as he defeated the GOP's liberal wing candidate, Nelson Rockefeller, which, of course, as I said before, back then, the Republicans had a liberal and a conservative wing, and so did the Democrats, which most of the conservatives of the Democratic Party was in the South. Yes, go ahead.
One of the cool things about Nelson Rockefeller, and I know that we're going to jump a little bit ahead, but when Nixon got impeached, Gerald Ford took over, and who was his vice president, Nelson Rockefeller. It's the only time in American history that the president and the vice president were not elected by the people.
There's a very nice little trivia fact for you. And Nelson Rockefeller, who I was about to give you another fun fact on, is of course now known as one of the founders of the deep state and most likely responsible for the assassination of JFK, which means that we should take a moment.
He also started Jay-Z's record label.
Yes, he absolutely started Jay-Z's record label. And we'd also like to take a moment real quick to thank the Rockefellers and the deep state for sponsoring Dig on America. We really, really appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
For all of your support. Thank you, Nelson. I'm sure the check is in the mail. I know it'll be here any day. Anyway, Goldwater lambasted welfare as destroying liberty and campaigned on possibly using nuclear weapons on Russia en route to getting blown out by LBJ. But he still carried 5 of the 6 states of what was previously known as the Democratic stronghold of the South. Now, Goldwater did not run a race-based campaign. In fact, he was a member of the NAACP. Goldwater was an active supporter of desegregation and voted for the 24th Amendment and the 1957 Civil Rights Act. He also favored the decriminalization of marijuana. But he voted against the 1964 Civil Rights Act and did so with what he described later as intense anguish due to his belief that one of the articles was unconstitutional and had pushed for that article to be removed. But he carried, because of the fact that he voted against the 64 Civil Rights Act, despite his entire history of being very progressive on civil rights, the southern states voted for him regardless of the fact that he was going to get blown out. Awesome. And Johnson had, let me finish this sentence. And Johnson had advocated for and signed the 1964 Act into law. So the backlash of white voters in the South meant that switching votes to Goldwater, who by default had to be more racist than that ninja lover LBJ. Michelangelo.
The case you're looking for is Lee versus Weissman, 505 U.S. Code 577, or U.S. case 577.
1988 or 89?
92.
Oh, okay.
That's the one where it came up, and that was when the court reaffirmed its decision on removing prayer from public schools.
Right, which was astonishing in and of itself. But anyway, all right. So as we close here, as I said, Goldwater received the votes in the South because, of course, he had to be more racist than LBJ. This was further demonstrated by the clusterfuck of 1968, where Richard Nixon defeated Hubert Humphrey. But Humphrey, of course, won the consolation prize of having the Vikings home stadium named in his honor. So take that, Tricky Dicky. But Nixon won the campaign based on returning to a time of normalcy in the wake of the riots of the 1960s and the unrest after the Civil Rights Act on the parts of whites. He was anti-communist, but also favored family values, was anti-drugs, anti-hippie, concerned about the Supreme Court expanding freedoms. In other words, he didn't want those freedoms expanded. And he was pro-law and order. Please stop me if any of this rings a bell.
It's like I remember someone saying this, I don't know, if I'm going to throw a number out there, maybe like 4 years, maybe in the last 4 years, 5 years, maybe. I heard this.
Nonstop.
Heritage.
So Nixon did not win the former Confederate states in 1968, as is often thought. Those went to a third-party candidate. So people who talk about the Southern strategy not being real, yeah, you're right. Nixon did not win the former Confederate states. Those went to a third-party candidate, Alabama Governor George Wallace, an overt racist and supporter of Jim Crow laws, known for his quote, hold on, let me get an Emmett Tucker, segregation now, tomorrow and segregation forever.
Forever.
But this did not go unnoticed by some on the right. Now, as it turns out, Nixon was a disappointment to conservatives as he signed the EPA regulations into law. He didn't overturn the New Deal, and he nominated an old school conservative, Warren Burger, who upheld to the Supreme Court as the Chief Justice, who upheld integration rulings, affirmative action initiatives. Yes, pause.
And even going further, I mean, he expanded and reopened relationships with China, which at the time was very communist.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, being an anti-communist and running on that principle, I mean, that's a big issue where that's a complete contradiction. Hence how we got pandas in the National Zoo.
And Panda Express. But not only that, the big tuna in the goldfish bowl, Roe versus Wade, because Burger voted for
greatest decision ever.
Yeah, I will not disagree with that.
Nobody is happy about it, which means that it's a good decision.
And just real quick,
when everybody hates something, it means it's good.
Before you say that, Dutch, I have something here in the chat that you need to hear right now. We have a message from Nelson Rockefeller. Your check hasn't arrived. I'll check on that for you, Dutch. So there you go. So he's looking into it. Thank you, Nelson.
Can you ask him to check with Bezos on his too, or Soros? I mean,
are his shoes on the right?
They're at the reptilian alien convention right now. Okay, so let's talk to him real quick.
I donated some plasma for that event.
So is his shoes on the right feet, and is the newspaper turned the right way this time?
No, they're on backwards. They're on backwards.
And the newspaper's upside down, right?
No, he fixed that problem. He's got that right now.
Oh my God! I just saw your shirt and realized Tons of Mice's joke. Jesus Christ.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. Tons of Mice. So this perpetuated the narrative that family values were in decline as women's rights came to center stage with the ERA. Contraception was being normalized. Title IX was enacted, and women were getting divorces. I mean, how dare one stay in a terrible abusive marriage and choose instead to get a job? And of course, Nixon wasn't helped by the leak of the Pentagon Papers. Call the plumber, stop the leaks. Or in covering up Watergate, leading to his resignation to avoid impeachment. The government continued to grow, and African Americans saw significant increases in economic empowerment, political office wins, and freedoms. Immigration from Mexico and the Arab world increased, all of which Nixon allowed because he loved being popular, and this made him popular, but all of which also somehow bothered white conservative Christian voters who formed the belief that the big government of the New Deal and the Great Society and the deep state must be stopped at any cost. And that brings us to that sets the stage for what we've seen with Reagan, with Bush 1, and maybe not so much with Bush 2, but definitely with Trump. So your thoughts on that brief, taking it back into some history. Andrew, I know you have some deep thoughts on this. Mikey, quick reaction though.
No, first. He can go first. He's the guest. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, Dan. AD. Now that we've ripped your party to pieces. So
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, at some point, I'll go create the counter to this entire thing, and I'll have one of you guys on. And
except mine is true.
He's gonna he's gonna make a YouTube channel called The Real Dig on America Podcast.
Yeah, and take everything we say and
I legitimately just don't have the time for that at this point.
We are waiting for our invite to be interviewed, though. So
yeah, he didn't call either one of us, but it's cool.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We'll keep waiting for that for your invite and Nelson's.
I'm sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties.
I mean, circle.
I think some parts of what Nixon and even Reagan threw out there were a little bit true. I mean, I feel that definitely Nixon and this entire decline of the social fabric was declining, and that family value aspect, I feel, is something that, really conservatives grasp onto.
Is that something that you agree with, or that's something that conservatives agree? Or are you the conservative that agrees with? I don't know.
I agree with that a little bit, where I feel like the family value And I'm not saying that anybody should stay in a marriage they don't want to be in or anything like that.
But you
But I
kind of are,
definitely,
though.
but I don't think I am. Meaning that it's this idea that I think this was the start where now you can enter this realm where it's this idea that you know being part of your community isn't relevant anymore. You could be sort of the lone wolf, that you don't have to, put, family value and work through things. And if we lead all the way up to today's age, and I know I'm glossing over a bunch of stuff, and I'm sure you're going to challenge some of it, we now see a lot of single parents. And there's nothing wrong with a single parent, but I would imagine in the 1950s, and when I know of the 1950s, 1960s, single parenthood was way less than what it is today.
Do you know
And
why?
also, I mean, I could think of a few reasons. Obviously, people having more independence, and obviously,
we just read the law changes that affected that.
And also, you have to
yeah,
remember at the time, a woman couldn't take care of a kid by herself because she wouldn't get
sure.
hired anywhere because the patriarchy is real. And yeah, we were fucking garbage bags back then. We were awful people. There is nothing redeeming about those family values when women were literally either going to starve to death or be with a fucking piece of shit man. That says something about us.
I mean, I would challenge that to because
how dare you?
I mean, I don't. I think that is a massive generalization.
I think you made one also, which is why I felt it was fair.
I mean, my position is that I get that contraceptive came. I think contraceptive is great. I think birth control is great. I don't have a problem with birth control or contraceptive. I like it because guess what? Not everybody at 25 is ready to start a family.
Well, let me ask you a quick question, Andrew.
Yeah.
Are you an evangelical?
I'm not. We had this discussion.
Yeah, you're okay. I didn't know, but just because you're Jewish,
are you an evangelical Jew?
No. Yeah, just because you're Jewish doesn't mean you can't be an evangelical. Are you a Jew by religion or a Jew by nationality? I just want to clarify, or both.
Definitely. I think more by religion.
Okay.
But obviously my mother's Jewish and it obviously, I mean, it's a lineage thing. I don't know if that makes any sense. So I wasn't born in Israel.
Being a Jew is unique because it's often referred to, like, I have Jewish friends who are atheists.
It's complicated being Jewish because there's a whole spectrum of it. I'm not Orthodox.
Okay.
If that gives idea for whatever, I was pretty much in a Reformed temple, so not a strict temple, and I was bar mitzvahed. And
you weren't going with Ben Shapiro to bar mitzvah.
No. Okay. I mean, obviously, you carry the Torah, you read from the Torah and all that stuff. So obviously, sure. I tend to, and also when I was Jewish, I was more left earlier on, and I become more right as I become older. So
I will say real quick that I've gone to a couple of Jewish, Orthodox Jewish services when I was studying for my religion degree, and they are just fascinating. I will say, like, it was a really cool experience to be there. Like, the community was other than the Hindu temple that we went to, those two were just so accepting of everybody. There were people hugging, old ladies hugging us. It was just a really awesome experience to go to that a couple times. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it depends because there's extreme Orthodox. There's
I'm
Orthodox.
Sure. Yeah.
But Ben Shapiro is not a Israeli extreme Orthodox. He might wear a yarmulke on his head, but he is not in that camp. That he's about 17 degrees, where he practices kosher laws, but he is not wearing a tallis and having 9 kids. And if you ever seen that, and I don't mean to disparage my own religion, but I've seen a family, and it's a very weird thing. I mean, I'm not that far from Rockland County, and Rockland County has a huge Hasidim community.
Hasidic Jew, yeah.
And it's basically one of the things with COVID, and I know it's an aside, but there's real concerns in Rockland County with COVID, and then because they all live in what could be argued to be a cult. The rabbi.
Yeah, don't walk in there, unless your elbows are covered, because God forbid you don't have a long sleeve shirt on.
It's one of those, and I don't mean to. Whenever a measles outbreak happens, it's in Rockland. 9 times out of 10 it's started there. And that's not me being racist or anti-religion or anything like that. It's just the last 16 of them have been that. So,
well,
but
facts are facts, right? They don't care about your feelings.
So,
I so hate that stupid fucking bumper sticker ass phrase. God, that's so dumb.
I love using that phrase. Anyway, go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, dump trucks don't care about your feelings. Like, they don't have anything to do with each other. Like, why would you even put those together? So stupid. So stupid. Anyway, I'm sorry.
So the way I feel is that I feel like definitely, and I believe this, is that the social fabric has declined, where I feel that people don't have family values and people don't want to
Well, define a family value for me.
I think that a family value is, a husband and wife, or a man and a woman saying, hey, I want to live together. I want to make sure we're compatible. I want to raise our kids. I want our kids to, or two partners for that matter. We could go take it a bit more progressive, that if a man and a woman and a woman, or a man and a woman want to raise a child together, that they stay together and they want to sit down at the dinner table and that they want to have family events. Like, I feel like a lot of stuff that's happening now is that also having a child out of wedlock, and there's nothing illegal about it, but I feel like it is a different experience where, great, we have a kid, and that doesn't mean daddy and mommy, or daddy and daddy, or mommy and mommy are not going to not see the kid, or when I'm taking off saying bye-bye. But it's this idea that they're not even creating, I guess, a traditional or untraditional sort of nuclear unit. And then on top of that, I also feel like people don't want to be a part of their community. So they don't want to engage in their community.
I would push back on that.
So if me and my fiance have a kid tomorrow, let's just say tomorrow, and then in a year from tomorrow, we break up.
Which probably will happen if she comes to her senses, by the way.
I'm so glad her vision is so bad. I gotta take her to the optometrist soon, and I'm worried that he fucking gets the fucking script right.
She's gonna get LASIK.
Yeah, if she gets LASIK, I am fucked. I am done for. I'm on the market, ladies. If my girl ever gets LASIK.
But even to push back, and I'll clarify. Even let's say that you find that you're not compatible. I find that people won't even go to like couples therapy, for instance. And I know it's a generalization, but I've just heard things, and I feel that people don't want to say, hey, let's try to make this work.
But I feel like that's not really your place. And for someone who is so against government overreach, it is unfathomable to me that you would think that it's okay for one set of
how is this governmental? Because this is an obligation to each other. No, I didn't say the government should force it.
No,
that's the difference.
But that's what I'm saying. You think the government reach at all is bad, but then you think society should be able to judge my house. Y'all don't pay my bills. You don't live my life.
You have an obligation as a
who
member of society.
Who told you that?
By definition, you absolutely do.
Who told you that the society?
Okay,
you don't have an obligation.
I think that you do have an obligation to society. Let me just, because I'm confused by where this is going.
Because you're interrupting.
You have, but I'm trying to tie your thought with his.
I don't want mine.
So Mikey, are you're not saying that we don't have social responsibilities?
No, I'm saying that for the same person who is so strident against government overreach,
right?
Do you not see it as communal overreach for you to tell somebody that their family structure, the way that they have it set up, is less optimal, is bad, is less good? Do you think you're in a position to even say that about someone else's family?
I mean, data shows that typically that the ideal family is 2 parents in a household. That's been.
I don't think that. I think you're saying it's quite slightly wrong, Andrew. What studies show is that children who have 2 parent figures in their life are statistically often better off in some social structures and in some educational structures because of things like having an extra parent to read to them,
right.
That sort of thing, that those children can have advantages. but that does not. But I would challenge that in a way,
Sure.
saying that because like now, as it so happens, my children's birth mother is a piece of shit. However, let's pretend that she was not.
And
In this particular case, she now
you.
has.
Yeah.
She now has. In this particular case, my children, if she wasn't a piece of shit, if she was a normal, nice, thoughtful person, they could be in a situation where they have a mother, and then they have me, and then they have a stepmother, and then they have potentially a great person to be a stepfather. There are a lot of children who have literally 4 parent figures in their lives because and good people. There are people who have so it's not fair to say that. Now also I got my first divorce. No, go ahead.
You got that point. And that's the thing, is the studies don't show things as they are. They show what they're meaning to display. So if me and my girl just say, you know what, fuck getting married, and we have kids,
you're still a 2-parent family.
That's a 2-parent family, but it's a child out of wedlock. So that's what I'm saying. It's like the people who are making these judgments on other people's families don't know the family structure. I know like 15 friends that have baby mamas.
Sure.
They love their kids love them. Them and the old lady don't always get along, so sometimes they have good months and sometimes they have bad months. But the kid is always cared for. The kid is always felt included. Like I think this is like one of those where,
and that happens in marriages too.
But that's what I think this I think this is a thing where it's statistics versus studies, where the numbers say this. But if you flush it out and you extrapolate the details from the study or from the statistics, you can make a better, more well-rounded assessment on what is happening. Like I was raised by a single parent, but my mom was not single when I was conceived and born. That happened shortly after my birth. So technically she was a single parent, but we came from a 2-parent household. Me and my siblings came from a 2-parent household. So I think when we say these things, it doesn't really tell the story. So a child out of wedlock doesn't mean a one-night stand. It doesn't. But that's the way that it's interpreted, because that's the way that all the statistics are drawn out and displayed. But that's not really what it means. Like, and a lot of modern people our age, Andrew, they don't get married. A lot of people our age are not marrying. They're together in like 16, 17-year relationships. They've been together, they're high school sweethearts, but they've never been married. They don't see a need. And they just live their lives without being married because they just don't want to.
The only reason to get married is because society tells you have to get married to get the tax benefits.
Yeah, it's an economic or insurance might be thrown into that.
How dare the government get involved in my personal life?
But one of the things is that I think marriage, though, this is what I mean by the social fabric. I think when you become married, and look, I'm not gonna. There's nothing illegal about this. I don't think the government should force you to get married. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that to some degree, there's been a, I guess, shift, and the, I guess, fabrics and the weaves of it have been tested and moved around, because when you're married, you're now in a partnership. It is now a legally binding partnership, and it's more serious than saying, hey, me and my girl have a kid, we love our kid, everything's working out great. Obviously we don't see any monetary benefit. That's what I mean, where it creates a social bond. That
I don't think you need a marriage to do that, Andrew. I think that if you in your personal life think that you would prefer to be married for life, I mean, I do too, but like that's fine. There's no problem with that whatsoever. It's okay to get married. It's okay to, but there are plenty of married couples that abandon their kids. Maybe not, I'm not talking about physically abandoning them, but I'm, emotionally abandoning their children, working all the time and fighting with each other in front of them and staying in bad relationships and stuff like that, where it's just not a good atmosphere for the kids. Now, people on the church side will say that's because of the degradation of society. God's left the society, so their marriages are breaking down, and that's causing problems. But there's really no evidence for what the religious community says there. They cite statistics that don't actually have any particular meaning. And that's one of the problems I have with Christianity and with Judaism, with Islam for that matter, as well, because they promote the same garbage. Black Lives Matter is often vilified for saying that they want to disempower or disrupt, I believe the word is, the nuclear family. And what they mean by that is that they want to disrupt the thought process that you have to be a man and a woman married under the law with children born in wedlock in order to be good parents, because that is the social stereotype that a lot of people have. And that social stereotype is dead wrong. There are plenty of single mothers who have raised great kids, and there are plenty of married couples who've raised great kids. As long as you have as the child is cared for and loved, whether it is between a divorced couple, a remarried couple, an adopted couple, a gay couple, or Rockefeller and the rest of the space aliens adopting, Lindsay Lohan, I don't give a shit, because those, it's all about the children and providing for the children. And what you mentioned real quick about like something about like their sense of community engagement or whatever, I think that's unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, it's generally the right who has scoffed at Hillary when she said it takes a village. And and I'm no fan of Hillary, but that's really precisely what she said. She was saying
her.
I can't fucking stand her. But the point is that it's a left-wing talking point sort of to say it takes a village, the community can help raise kids. That's very big in the Black community. It always has been. It's not so big. It's kind of big in the white community in a silent sense too, because you want to know where your kids are at when they're at the neighbor's house and talk to their mom and make sure that there's not drugs in the house or a abusive father or something like that. But I don't think that your community awareness and you're looking out for your neighbor and watching for the well-being of your community has anything at all anything whatsoever to do with whether you're married or not. You can be an old hermit and care about your social structure. So your thoughts on that?
So I mean, what I really, I guess I'm aiming at is that just even being active in your community, being aware of your community, and this idea that, and I'm trying to formulate my thoughts because I'm obviously taking everything you say in, and so obviously, I guess what I feel has been the rise to neoconservatism is this idea that, I think that social fabric has been tested. I think people have further gotten away from religion and purpose to some degree as well. I think it is an issue. And even just I mean, that's how I view it. Just to address Mikey's point, I'm not saying the government should get involved, because I distinguish between, again, nothing illegal is going on. I mean, if you're abusing your kid, that's a whole different position, because now you're hurting a human being. And I think everybody agrees that, I don't want a kid in a bad environment if he's being physically abused or over emotionally abused. Now, I think that there are gray lines where, I don't think that if your kid did something stupid and you yell at your kid, you're abusing your kid. If your kid just got suspended from school and you yell at your kid saying, "What the fuck did you do?"
Yeah, that's a little different.
That's a little different. I think that has to be rolled back a little bit.
But that social fabric and it's very important. And this is not me. I know you kind of feel like you're in the lion's den and we keep attacking you. I still love you. You're still a great guy. But I'm just attacking your points, because your points, I think a lot of people share those same outlooks, and that's why I'm going at them so exuberantly. Whose social fabric? Because when you talk about the social fabric from certain decades, from one that you have to realize the context of those decades. Like when people when I forget what's the dude, Jason, what's the you're not gonna fucking remember his name. Why did I even just think to ask you that?
I never remember people's name. Alex Trebek.
Jordan Clarkson?
Oh, Jordan Peterson. You're talking my language now.
No.
I know who that asshole is.
The dude from TYT from The Daily Show who kept going to those Trump rallies.
Oh, Jordan Klepper.
Klepper. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, Kleppy. I call him.
Yeah.
That's my nickname for him. But he would go in and he'd be like, "Hey, so Make America Great." And like, what time? What decade are you thinking? And everybody kept hearkening back to the 50s and 60s. But if you
Yeah.
go back historically and look at what the 50s and 60s meant for certain people rather than other people,
MAGA.
that shit does not correlate. No one wants to go back to that because it wasn't great for them. So if we're moving forward, we have to re-examine what the family means, how we structure the family, what's taken care of by who, and is this good for the kid? The kids are smarter than ever. I mean, they're lazier than shit, but then again, so are we. But the kids are not suffering from this new landscape change.
Are they smarter than ever, or do they just have more access to information?
What's the difference?
I think it's probably both. Let me real quick just share something with you. This is Victory Channel, right? My favorite place to watch crazy shit.
What the?
But this is
There's
a great
Bible right in the
look,
damn
look.
logo.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with the Bible. It's the people who wrote it were the problem. But look at this. So I want to keep it on this picture. You see this picture here? Look at what you're looking at. The family. Look how it moves by itself, and I can't pause it. Look how excited they are
about Kenneth Copeland
to watch Kenneth Copeland. The kid, he's all paying attention. They've got the fruit and the orange juice out. The daughter's standing up. The husband is so excited. Look at that smile on his face. All this white family, 4 people sitting in their nice home watching Kenneth Copeland on their new TV. That is precisely the idea that the the religious community has. And the problem, brother, is that they think anything other than that
say, brother?
is brother. The problem with that is that if you aren't that, the religious community looks down on you. And that's a big fucking problem. And that's one of the things that I'm trying my ass off to change within the church. And it is not fucking easy, but it is. And that's not to say that that family is a bad family, but just because you're not exactly like that family doesn't mean that you can't raise productive children and happy children in this society. And that's what Black Lives Matter means when they say disrupt that idea that is the only thing that is normal and good under God.
I'm going to jump in one more time. I'm so sorry. Because at the same time period, that's when dress codes were set up. When some of these older companies, that's when they started. It's that same era of people that make dress codes. I don't know how many promotions I've been turned down for because my hair is too long. Or because I don't want to shave.
I'll jump in on that, which is super interesting. So obviously, a lot of stuff is happening in Congress. And
can I say a quick joke before you start talking? Remember that Tesla song? Tesla, long head, crazy ass, freaky people need not apply. So,
I don't know what that is.
It's from a Tesla song. Okay, go ahead. From the 80s.
So I'll give an example. So obviously a lot of stuff has happened on Capitol Hill, and I don't mean legislatively, I mean more HR issues in the last 20 years. On both sides of the aisle, you know, from staffer issues all the way to just the inner to Congress people. And so what's happened is that if you get into Congress, is that you have to go through, I guess, training that deals with that, which isn't a bad thing. But one of the things that gets complicated is that, well, what about dress codes, especially if you're giving a tour? Because different congressional offices, because now you're representing that office, and there's been a bunch of issues, what you just mentioned, where somebody's hair is a certain way, or maybe I don't shave, but now I'm giving, you know, a tour, and then it's like, what happens? Do I get kicked off that tour on Wednesday, and somebody else who's in LA, or a staff assistant, which is the lowest rank, and then there's a, you know, communications person, and then, you know, or like a junior LA, and so it becomes super complicated in that regard. So I get the dress code element, but I also understand that you have to look professional. And so it's tricky.
Who makes the rules about what is and is not professional?
That's a great point, because I had this argument with Melissa the other day, because she, like, when it came to transgender, I'm like, she was trying to figure out what I meant by transgender people are discriminated against. And I'm like, if you had to if you had to hire a manager for a forward facing position, and you have a guy in a dress, as using this, I'm using that their lexicon right now, that they feel that a guy in a dress would dissuade people from wanting to do business there. That's a social problem, but not for the guy in a dress, not for the person who is a transgendered individual who has incongruity, like what Amber Rose Washington talked about on this show a few weeks ago. You know, I may personally think it's weird because I'm not socially up to that point yet. Maybe I just haven't been exposed to it enough. But that person not being able to get that job that they're overly qualified for because of the fact that they're transgendering, and it might make a customer uncomfortable, that's not that person's problem. That's the customer's fucking problem. So, you know, and that's the type of thing that I think we're trying to overcome.
What I'm saying about that
in society.
swinging. That's what I'm saying. When that pendulum swings, if we just gonna wait for it to swing again, and then it'll rock back, and then we can change things. It's like,
though.
What's that?
It's a little bit more complicated than that, because at what point, though, what if it now is costing a business $100,000? Like, and I understand that this is just logic, where now you also have to weigh the business's position of saying, like, look, I get it. I don't have a problem. I just watched a LGBTQ wrestling show, and it was great, and those wrestlers are fantastic. And I think if you're a wrestler and you're gay, there shouldn't be a problem with it. But now, if you're the front and center and you're a hostess or a host or a hostess, and it's like, I don't know the right termage here, but it's going to cost, it's going to dissuade people. That's going to hurt the bottom line, and it's actually going to affect the underlying of the business. It's now complicated. And so I think with transgender, it's a little bit more complicated versus saying if somebody has dreads and they're not hired to give a congressional tour. I think those are two different completely things about professionalism.
I think they're both the same, because the problem is not the applicant, and the problem is not the person giving the tour. The problem is the laws. Right. The problem is people's outward perception of them. That's the prejudiceness and the bigotry. That's the issue. So the person is not the issue. So as long as we continue to force people to assimilate into normal cisgendered culture because we are right, we have so many examples where assimilation is bad and people were assimilating into toxic monsters of people. Are we going to be the next group of monsters, or are we going to say, you know what? Let me stop for a second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, let me stop for a second and realize what I'm actually saying.
I guess what I'm challenging, because I run a business and I run an eBay business, so I don't have this problem. But I understand that all of a sudden, if it cuts 20% of my margins down, it's such a tricky problem. I don't know how to solve this, because.
So let's say this.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I agree, and I recognize the problem. But the problem here is that at a certain point, it's going to cut down so much margin that then the business isn't going to be able to be sustainable. So how do we solve that problem?
Okay, so if you were transgendered and right. people were totally willing
I'll give you a better example. I'll give you a real example. Disability. This is, I'm not going to tell you what congressional office is. It may or may not be somebody who already mentioned what happened.
Yeah.
So I come in, I'm walking on Loft-Strand crutches. This is the perfect example. When I walk in for that interview with that chief of staff, I saw in his eyes that I wasn't going to get hired because of my disability. I saw it a mile out. Wasn't hard. I can't prove it, but this is exactly what we're talking about, right?
Sure. And people with disabilities and people in wheelchairs and people with autism, but that's a social problem. That's
you're not the issue there.
I get the problem. I get what you're saying, Andrew. I don't think you need to prove your point, because, and I'm not trying to shut you up, but like, I totally recognize the fact that a business may suffer from this financially. But what I am saying is that it is people like us who have to fight these social stigmas and these ideas like the Victory News Channel picture of the perfect family. None of those kids had dreads. None of them had the dad didn't have a dress on, and none of them were in a wheelchair, because unless you're like the Air Force guy who's trying to build the wall who lost both of his legs, they don't want anybody around like that. People scoff at Tammy Duckworth because she lost her legs in war. You know, but these are issues with society, and that's what we were talking about before, where I think, you know, I'll turn this back on Mikey briefly, is because we have to get society to a place where we can get enough support that we can say, hey, you cannot discriminate against this person if they're qualified for this job, regardless of whether or not they wear a dress or have dreads or in a wheelchair, because they're qualified for the job. And once we get enough of that power in place and have knocked enough businesses on the head, who I totally sympathize with their bottom line. I get a lot of these businesses are small businesses. It's not like we're talking about Walmart here. We're talking about people who've invested their entire life into it. I get that. But if you hold everyone to it and it starts to become more normal, then you're going to see the resistance to it start to fade away in time. And I think that's where we need to get.
I agree. My point, though, is that if this collapses the business, nobody has a job. And so, again, what I'm all with this. I interview whoever. I've had a bunch of people who are transgender, and we've had amazing conversations. And I didn't interview them because they were transgender. I interviewed them because they're good wrestlers, they're good writers, they're good cosplayers, you know, and they're great people, and they're fun to be around. Them being transgender didn't have a problem with them being on my show. That was never the issue. I've interviewed gay people. That's not the problem. Which I don't interview somebody because of their sexuality or how they want to change their body or however they want to deal with and live their life. I'm all for that. My issue becomes is that we're weighing everything, and I agree that has to be pushed back, and I think it's changing. But it becomes tricky because all of a sudden, if that's going to end the business.
No, it's not tricky. You just said it yourself. I love these people. I'll have them on my show. I'll do all this. But if I can't make money, well, I guess then fuck them. And that's why
that's not what I said at all.
That is exactly what you're stating. Because the business be damned. The customers be damned. These are human fucking beings. And we have to add.
And the people who own the business are human beings too. So we're weighing two human beings. That's the fucking problem. So we're screwed either way because we're damned if we're doing, we're damned if we're not. And I don't know how to solve this.
So if you have a business,
because you're saying fuck you to the business. That's what you're saying.
Yes, I am, because these are real people.
Okay, the business gets fucked, and okay, and that business closes down. Problem solved.
That if all of your customers are so much to the point where they will not support your business if there is a trans person in the front lobby, if that's such a bother to them, then that has nothing to do with your business. That has everything to do with your customers, and there has to be a line there. How long will we continue to do? So then you agree with me. So then the business closes because your clientele is bigoted. That's not your fault. That's not the trans person's fault. It's the people's fault.
But the people,
unless you're selling Confederate flag hats,
the people who eat those costs though are that person who's working there and are the businesses. So
do you want to work for a place that's anti-Semitic?
No. The business isn't anti-Semitic. Of course not. Nobody wants to work.
But it's good for the bottom line. It's good for the bottom line. So would you?
There was a time and place, especially in New York, when that was precisely the case. You know, you can have a Jew working there, even though I don't think I could tell a Jew from a German half of the time. But I'm just an idiot when it comes to stuff. But like the problem was with society, and like I think that's also another reason why we need to have social structures set up, social programs set up, so that if that did happen to you and your business closed because of something like that, that you then are also either in on that lawsuit because you did nothing wrong by putting a transgender person in or a person in a wheelchair in the front lines, and B,
Or a
you
person
can
with
you have
dreads.
the opportunity. No, we don't want them. But or so that you can put dreads are a choice.
I hate you.
Dreads are a choice. We're not going to argue about that.
I'll ask Mikey this after you finish, because I have a question for Mikey.
Yeah, so let's do this because we got to wrap this up, and we got one more game to play with you. So
you got to wrap
I do want to make. I want to make a point.
I'm gonna
about something.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let Andrew make his point. I'm gonna let Mikey. I think you want to ask Mikey a question. Mikey can follow up, and then we're gonna play a quick game.
It's more of a point because I think this speaks to Dutch's point as well. So there was a show called Bush vs. Gore. It was an LBGTQ wrestling show that happened last March, and then they did essentially Bush vs. Gore 2 that happened a week ago. And what it featured gay and lesbian and queer and LGBTQ talent. And one of the things that they came to the conclusion is saying, hey, we're not getting anything here. We're not getting opportunity. And they said, we're going to go build our own. Fuck it, we're going to go build our own. So that is my solution. And this has given a platform for a lot of people. And look, that is changing because in wrestling, gay and lesbians and everybody in that sector has been parodied. And wrestling hasn't done favors to any of this. And they've done a bunch of damage to it, and it's now starting to change. But what I think is the answer in many ways, because guess what? That show, Butch vs. Gore, the first one, was trending on Twitter at number 3 last March, and then it was trending on number 6 on Twitter. And an independent wrestling show is legitly trending in WWE territory.
You know what you just described? And you're gonna hate this.
I describe capitalism.
You just described separate but equal. That's exactly what you just described. Is that the trans people should and the gay people should have their own show? That's separate but equal.
It's not. Look, I don't think what Mikey's saying is that you're supporting it.
Yeah,
but what he's saying is that society has created the conditions where. Can I
say what Mikey's saying? Maybe. Can I say what Mikey's saying?
You have dreads, no?
Not yet. But that's the thing, though. So this is the same thing that happened with Black Wall Street in Rosewood, Oklahoma. This is what happened. They said no.
Wilmington.
Yeah.
Toledo.
None of you coloreds can come over here and do this thing. So we went and we made our own shit. Our totally own shit, and it thrived. And Russ, what up, Russ, is in the chat. He's watching The Watchmen. He'll love that. That's what we did. We did our own thing, completely separate. We had our own banks. People had money. The traditional family structure was supported, and we had never done better as a people until the KKK came and burned it all down. But the whole reason we had to do that in the first place, not saying that people doing their own thing separately can't thrive and do well, but the fact that we had to do it in the first place was because they told us we were not allowed here. You take your colored business elsewhere. That's a dangerous.
And Jewish people did the same thing too. And what do they get today? They pay for it with tropes. And like the Jewish people own the banks and all this stuff because of the exact same thing that he's describing with Black community. So the Jewish community did the same thing, and so did the Sikh community is doing it now too, and they're getting the same thing.
I think the point I'm making though is that this is a little bit different because this was on the top independent wrestling streaming service that legitimately reaches hundreds of thousands of people and had a huge rate of return that included everybody. So I don't know if this is fully separate.
But that's that's peanuts,
I get
right? Little Nas X put out a video 5 days ago. It's at 60 million views. That's peanuts. We're talking peanuts here. That's peanuts.
No. My point is that I don't think this one in particular is separate but equal, but I get what you're arguing.
That's why it's not incumbent upon allies, people who are forward thinking, to worry about the bottom line. The bottom line will suffer. It's going to suffer. Look, we're not going to, I know, but we're not going to agree. We're not going to get there. We're not going to get to that next step unless somebody sacrifices. So either it's going to be blood or it's going to be cash. Which are you willing to give up?
And we go through this on this, like, look, we could very easily do a show about the three of us could very easily do a show about comic books or about playing Among Us, and probably have 12,000 people watching us right now. But we're talking about things that we feel are important. Therefore, we're limited. Therefore, we have 19 people watching us right now. So
and one of the things
I could make more money by playing Among Us, but that's not important to me. You know what I mean? Am I making sense?
So one of the things is that I want what you want, Mikey, and I want what you want. I think we all agree that we want society to move. My problem is that I'm trying to make it so that maybe we move this in 5 years instead of 3. And we
okay, no. That's let me stop you right there real quick. With all due respect, Dr. King was probably said this best. They always tell us now is not the time. So we have to get away from that. And I understand the temptation of going there. That you going there does not make you a bad person, but going there after this statement might. And I mean this with from the bottom of my heart. The time is never tomorrow.
That's not what
the time is now. Huh?
Is he pissed at me now?
No, I think his dog is walking in the room. I love the layout here when we're on here better that says Dig on America. I wish that it was just that we could somehow do all 3 in the middle right there. But like it's groups that are marginalized are almost always told, not that way, not right now. Look at Kaepernick. I agree with you, Kaepernick, but not that way. Don't kneel for the flag.
So I guess the point I'm trying to make, and I'm not trying to go down the road, is that I'm trying to figure out how we get the most, and we get this moving without completely destroying 20% or whatever that number is. And so I'm trying to balance it so that everybody makes the least amount of sacrifice. And
I agree with that. I totally
I'm not trying to. I get the time is now because I obviously run a sole business that produces me a good rate of return, and then it's not making me a millionaire, but it's producing a lot of fun money, and so I understand that, and I don't have a problem with it. And look, my entire thing is that I'm trying to balance everybody's interests. And I'm trying to make sure that everybody doesn't get completely destroyed. Where I don't want the burden to be completely on the business owner and for them to be completely fucked over. And especially if somebody just put their life savings into this and they have 0. Okay? But I'm also, saying, look, I don't think a trans person, much like a gay person, should have had the right to marry legitimately 70 years ago and not be dealt with and then suppressed by the government and them not granting them a marriage license if they so chose. I get all of that. I believe that a trans person, if they want to be a waiter or a waitress and whatever bathroom they want to use, they should be able to do their job if they're qualified. But at the same time, I'm also saying, hey, change needs to happen. I agree that sacrifices have to be made, but I just don't want that all burden on somebody and them to be completely wiped out and fucked over. And that's what I'm trying to balance.
I understand that, and I'm going to close this topic off with this statement. That's why you need government social programs and power to the government and some power to the government, because they're the only ones who can remedy that. Society won't do it. That sounds scary. I get it, but honestly, it is what it is. It is what it is. So we appreciate.
I want to say this: all of us agree that we want progress. It's just how we get there. I think it is.
I think that's a fair statement. Mikey, last word, real quick.
There's progress, and then there's talking about progress. So me and you, we didn't go to war. You know what I'm saying? We didn't go to Vietnam. We didn't go to Desert Storm. We didn't go to fucking Bay of Pigs. We didn't do that. We didn't sacrifice that. We didn't march in Tulsa. We didn't do all that stuff. But if my sacrifice, if the way that I can bolster the society that I live in is to make less money, because I will fully back and support all of my minority groups that are part of my crew and my clique. If I support them and people don't want to buy from me, bitch, you can't afford me. And by aligning yourself with these groups And by supporting these groups, you would be surprised at how much like a lot of big companies will pander to LGBTQ
Month
groups.
of June.
Well, today actually is Transgender Day of Visibility. So for all my trans peoples out there, hey, what up, y'all?
Why did you say hey that way?
Because that's how I say hey, motherfucker. I say hey. Shit.
But you agree about the month of June, right?
I don't know what's the month. Is that Trans Month?
It's a Pride Month, and then all these stores throw out their Pride flags,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's pandering. That's
I get
pandering.
it. I get it. It's pandering, but even if they're doing it for an economic reason, it at least changes the landscape and it gets people out of this. Oh, there's just a couple of F words and da da da. We have to mature and we have to grow up and we have to get out of that. So if I make less money, and like Dutch said, like I could make a React channel just saying all kinds of ridiculous shit and have 1 million viewers, but that's not my goal. My goal is to do shit that I like and do shit that I think that can actually change this shitty little rock that I'm stuck on because I can't afford a rocket ship.
The one behind
expensive. You? I would love to be on Pluto right now. I would love to be on Pluto. But
so
it's hold on.
Oh, I thought you were done. Almost. You paused.
Let me hit the pause button. It's important for us who aren't literally fighting and dying for things to be willing and ready to give up a little bit of that capital if that means doing the right thing. The history books will reflect us in shitty ways if we don't get this right. And I'm saying that as someone who loves to study history, but also someone who's very focused on the present. If we get this wrong, if you end up on the wrong side of this equation, you're not going to look like, oh, well, he just had his kind of points of view. You're just going to look like a dick. You're forgotten about anyway, and your whole shit's going to be like you're building your foundation on the beach.
Fair enough.
And I think just to close that people, I trust that your argument is coming from a place of genuine concern.
Me too.
But there are people who will take your argument and use it to spin their religious bigotries, and that I think is the end of the problem.
Do you even think it's religious, or do you just think it's bigotry as a whole?
I
They'll
think
use it that way.
I you are correct, but again, you have to, like we talked about before when you said they'll call Jason an asshole. You have to feel like you're defending something, and generally that's going to be something that's tied to a religious worldview.
Fair enough.
In my opinion, again, this has nothing to do with God. Like I am a staunch defender of God, of people's rights to believe in God and to worship as they please. But that the problems with religion are religion, not the God behind the religion. So it's man who is the problem. So let's first of all, that was great topic, great discussion. Is there any particular listener comment you would like to read to close this off there, Michelangelo?
We're not going to do what is Mikey smoking today?
No, we're not going to do. No one cares. Haas is not here.
Let me cue it up. Let me hit the button. I mean, Haas's picture will be there, but just imagine me, y'all. I'm not going to take as long as Haas. Just here we go.
Okay.
And the music's not working.
That's okay. Crazy. Well, we're out. So
wait. Oh, can I try it over here?
What are you drinking today?
Oh, here it is. I forgot I put it over here. Here it is.
I have the pleasure now to introduce who I believe is one of the baddest motherfuckers in the world.
To the humidor with Big Haas. Find out what and you die. That is natural.
Big Mikey.
Oh.
What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you ruining the show?
I'm a ruiner. I would like to display a new spiced rum I'm trying called Bumbu. Bumbu.
Boom. What is it? BUMBU?
Yes.
I'm gonna say
You sure that's not Undertaker rum?
It's I think this is like the celebrity brand.
Is it
no,
German cross on there? Nazi?
He's
It's
drinking the
Iron
Dead
Cross.
Man. It's WrestleMania season, right?
An authentic Caribbean legend, Bumbu XO is masterfully distilled by hand, aged to perfection, and finished in oak sherry casks for delicious, complex depth of aromas and flavors. With a 16th century heritage at its core, Bumbu XO is truly stunning rum, perfect over ice or in a favorite cocktail. So I'm having that with a little bit, and actually I can thank Big Hots for this. A little bit of
Bundaberg, baby.
Bundaberg ginger beer.
I love it.
The spiced rum with a ginger beer.
Is it good?
Oh man, I haven't lived.
Okay, because
y'all kept that shit a secret from me. Y'all wrong for that.
I had some spiced rum with diet ginger ale the other day, and I wasn't a big fan. So I might try it with the Bundaberg. Bundaberg makes a fantastic ginger beer.
I usually go for the Goslings. Gosling is my go-to because it's a little bit lighter. The Bundaberg
for ginger beer.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Gosling
you
is
guys
a
are
little
all fancy. God,
Let's
go with the rum and Coke.
It's right next to the damn Coke in the damn liquor aisle. You can just try.
It does cost 3 times as much though.
Well, it's ginger beer. I mean, if you buy it, you don't drink it like you drink Coke anyway. You don't drink it with like a fucking burger or some shit. So, Andrew, your homework for the next time you come on, you need to go to the store, buy one little 6-pack. It usually comes in a 6-pack of ginger beer.
4-pack.
Oh man, it's gonna be bad. I'm trying to get healthier.
No, it's good for you. It's got ginger in it.
It is, but it is high in carbs though.
Shut up about your damn.
I'm trying to drop 15.
It is very high in carbs.
Like seriously, I'm trying to drop 15 pounds. I used to drink like 1 soda a day. I'm down to 2 a week.
No one wants your excuses.
Yeah.
Shut up. Giving up like beer.
Spare
Fridays.
You can come hang out on
your excuses.
You can come hang out on a few of the podcasts I'm on. We'll get you sweating. You'll burn a bunch of them calories. So the spiced rum with the ginger beer, it's nice. They have this.
I will drink it tomorrow.
These are
how about that?
And I think this is the celebrity.
I don't have
endorser.
that spiced rum though.
You might. It's new. It just came out like within the last couple months, so you have to double check, make sure, or ask for it.
I'm sure they'll have it at Bevmo, which is our Benny's out here in California.
Oh, for sure, they'll definitely have it because Lil Wayne is the spokesperson for it.
I'm out.
I didn't
100% out.
I didn't know that until after because I was like, oh,
sure.
This is a dope ass glass. Look at this.
Did they pardon the bottle too?
It's got a frosted black bottle with like cool embossing. I was like, this is a well crafted bottle, and it had a cork, but I bought some reusable corks because if you don't, Consumer Report, make sure you have some of these guys because the regular cork is fucking shitty and it falls into the fucking drink. And I fucking was taking a sip and I'm spitting out fucking sand flakes and it was fucking irritating as shit because it floats in the ice and you can't fucking find it. And what I'm smoking on.
That's Lil Wayne for you. You know, they pardoned him, but not Snowden. Great job.
And what I'm smoking on is not tobacco, but I have my vape here with my Nick salts, and this is mint and mango that I have fused together. And that is the humidor for today. I give it 3 energy bars. I don't know. What do you rate a fucking vape?
5 bottles.
5 out of 5 bottles. I'd give this mixture because it's 2 different ones. I'd give it maybe like
5 coils. 5 coils.
Coils. Well played, sir.
Yes.
I'd give this 3.5 coils. Not great. It's just the standard issue. I didn't try for anything fancy, but 3.5 is good to me. Haas is very generous with his ratings. And then my drink combo with the Chicago style ice, which is the big 1-inch by 1-inch cubes, and they're like perfectly clear. With that, my ice is already melted. But early on in the drink, I would have given this out of cubes. Is that what I'm doing? The drink out of cubes?
Sure.
Out of Chicago ice cubes, I would give this 4.5 out of 5 cubes. Very delicious drink. Everybody should try it. Try a rum or a whiskey with a ginger beer. You will not be let down.
The best $3.99 I've spent in the last year was it was a gift from Melissa for Christmas, was the round ice cube maker where it makes, their
I have
probably a 1.5 inch ice cube.
I have 4 different kinds of ice trays in my freezer. I'm a bit of an ice snob.
Oh, you are a snob, but I'll tell you,
Yeah.
nothing melts ice faster than rum.
I gotta say, my ice is probably the coolest. I have Darth Vader ice cubes.
What?
Yes.
All right, get him out of here. Where's the technical
Yeah, fuck this
difficulties?
guy.
This guy's an asshole. He's
All
not
right,
even sharing
so-
his Darth Vader ice tray with us.
Always one-upping us, man.
Yeah,
I
I'm
swear.
so sick of this guy.
My friend has Kryptonian ice cubes, and I'm pissed. He got them at New York Comic Con because they were giving them away for free.
Oh no
and
way!
They make like noise, and I'm like, motherfucker. So
what do you mean whoa! What do you mean they make noise?
Like they have like sound effects in them.
Oh, so it's just a thing that you can chill. And
So
put in
you
your drink?
chill it, and you can
okay.
reuse it, and then it makes sound effects as you're drinking, and it like lights up the drink and makes it green.
Dutch, I
So-
kinda
Oh my
want that.
god!
Dutch, I kind of want
It's
these.
so cool. It's amazing.
Someone please buy that for Mikey in the chat, please.
Please and thank you.
Send it to me. All right, so we're gonna
I'll
close
never
off
get
here.
it.
This has been really great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a quick game. Game we play here that everyone hates in the chat, and I don't give a fuck. Is we're going to play a game. It's called Prank One, Marry One, Snap One. It's like the game that you know, except you're pranking one person, you're marrying one person, and then you're snapping one person, which means they're not dead, so it's not a threat. They're just
Like Thanos.
yeah, they're in another existence. Well, he's a comic guy. He knows.
He doesn't
All
know
right,
about Thanos because Thanos is Marvel and he loves DC. He's an apocalypse snap. Fucking dark
It's
side
a dark
snap.
Yeah. All right. So they'll be Darkseid would actually kill them. So we'll
Dark
stick
side
with
would
Thanos.
just like crush their brain with
Yeah.
his hands.
Yeah, Stephen Wolf.
Although
go. Stephen
when they axed Darkseid in JL Snyder cut, that was bad fucking ass.
That was so good.
And the CGI on the guy who played Ares, they made him young. That was
really cool.
They did a really good job on that too. So
man, they saved that movie.
They couldn't fix a mustache. They couldn't fix a mustache, but they made that actor 40
Hold on.
years younger.
This just in from the chat from Frustrated Atheist. How you doing, Russ? Prank Dutch, marry Mikey, and snap Andrew. I don't know that you guys should be voting on us. You're supposed to be voting on the people that we named.
I expect that. So
all right, so
I'm
here we
in
go.
enemy
Here's
territory, so I'm okay.
No,
it's
we're
fine.
not enemies.
I have to marry the bastard. Like you get off easy. You just get snapped away. Like I don't feel so good, and then you're done. I got to marry the asshole.
I'm done after a phone call, so I'm living life. All right, so prank one, marry one, snap one. We will give you 3 people. They don't have to be women. They don't have to be anything, but generally we do pick women. So I'm going to propose for you for the first one, since you're a conservative. I'm going to propose for you, Alexandria. No, I did that with Tony. I'm not going to do AOC
he
again.
wasn't.
I'm going to do
though.
Nancy Pelosi. So
Aw.
Nancy Pelosi is my first one for you. Go ahead, Mikey. You can take the last 2.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
We did her already.
See, what's crazy is that
he
I'm from
doesn't-
Yorktown,
He doesn't.
and she went to Yorktown High School.
He wasn't on that episode, Dutch, so it's fine.
Okay, you can reuse her.
Yeah, we're reusing her. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Well, she's already dead.
An alive Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Okay, a reincarnated Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So you have to marry one, snap one,
Prank one.
and prank one. Go ahead. Start with prank.
Definitely prank RGB or RBG or Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Definitely prank her because I think she would enjoy it, and I think she has a sense.
You're
of
probably
humor
right.
on it now.
You're probably right. She does. Okay.
I fictitiously.
What would you do a Jerky Boys prank? Like, hey, this is Frank Rizzo here. I'm coming there with the wet mops and shit. I need you to do a verdict for me. All right, so you're pranking RBG.
Because she would enjoy it, and she has a sense of humor, and she seems like she's fun. From what I know on the court and all of her relationships on the time she had, she really enjoyed it.
To be best friends with Scalia for 50 years, you got to have a sense of humor.
And also her position on Kavanaugh, where she said she kind of liked him and all that stuff. And
she got one wrong.
She and Scalia were the last great era of the Supreme Court, unfortunately. But that's a different discussion.
I can already feel that we may need a new speaker soon. 'Cause this has to be the easiest pick of all time. Who do you marry and who do you snap?
Yeah, who?
Yeah, I mean, guys, this is really tough. I mean, one of them is attractive, and the other is
Oh,
gonna
Nancy.
find me in jail. So,
So go ahead.
fictitiously speaking, I
Absolutely.
will politely make sure I'm in the will first, and then take out Pelosi.
We'll take her out by what?
It's the snap.
Yeah.
Thanos, do you ring?
Yeah.
He's gonna get that.
I doubt that anyone would be too upset for dusting Pelosi. But anyway, so I guess that leaves you with who are you going to marry?
Oh, AOC, because she's clearly the most attractive out of the bunch.
That's the only reason? You misogynist, you.
And since we are legitimately on polar opposites, I guarantee you the sex would be fantastic. See, I'm just saying.
I can speak to that truth because my wife is very conservative, although she knows nothing of politics. She just is because she thinks she's supposed to be. But that is probably true. And I do find AOC to be gorgeous myself. So
no, AOC is a very attractive young woman.
In the words of Professor Cardi B, gotta keep arguing with the brother because brothers love a toxic bitch.
All right. Well, there you go. Andrew, take us home. And then Mikey will take us home after that with his usual pitch for money. Andrew, tell us how do people follow you? Where can they find all of your cool podcasts on comics and wrestling and all that jazz?
So,
and I take it they're not political, right? For the most part.
The most political thing is we talk about COVID and how it's going to impact wrestling, comics, cosplay, and that stuff, which isn't political at all. So obviously it's not political. It's a good time, and so you can find that on Pop Anime Comics. It's a Facebook page. You can find it on YouTube, which is Pop Anime Comics. I am on Twitch. I don't know how to use Twitch. That's Pop Anime Comics.
You never got with me after last time, so I could get you set up. But it's okay. I'll reconnect with you.
Hey, I need to get in on it, but I've been a little busy. 130 interviews about 6 days ago. I did it in a year.
Do with nothing.
So I've been a little busy, but obviously you can follow me.
You wasted 2 hours with us, you liar.
So I would like to finish my spiel. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So obviously you can find me on Pop Anime.
Stop stealing the man's money.
and so yeah, it's pretty cool. And I interview wrestlers, cosplayers, voice actors. I have a really cool voice actor who plays Monkey D. Garp coming on next Monday from One Piece, and I'm super excited for that. So if you're a One Piece fan like I am, that's gonna be a cool one. And so. And then you could also check out my other thing, which is the first time I'm actually announcing it, and it's called the Comic Book Investment System Podcast. And I do it when I can, and I try to do an episode a week or 2 episodes a week, and I legitimately talk for anywhere from 15 minutes to 20 minutes about comic books, and I go through a bunch of stuff, whether that's how you get into it. I have a bunch of rules that you should follow that will help you out, that are just the 7 basic rules that will get your brain thinking about this sector. And then also I just did a really cool video, I think 2 weeks ago, going through the entire annualization rate of Hulk 181, dating back for the last 20 years, and how much money it actually has gone up compared to an S&P fund, and whether it's a good investment or a bad investment. So I do stuff like that as well, where we get real technical into numbers. Because I want people to be educated, and that's free. You can just like the Facebook page, because I am building out a class, and I do get that not everybody can afford that class, and I believe that everybody should have at least some basic education in comic book investing or have some idea. This way you could sort of get a feel for it if you want to determine it's right for you, because I hate scammers, and I hate all these fake gurus, and they make me really hate what they do and how they rob people of money and how they put people down in a hole. And I do not want to do that. And that's why I give a lot of information for free. And if you just want it a little bit cleaner and a little bit more building and module and a little bit more secretive information that I just have in the last 10 years that I've been doing this, yeah, that's kind of me. But I can also be found on Twitter, Pop Anime Comics, Instagram, Pop Anime Comics, typically anything Pop Anime Comics or the Comic Book Investing System podcast. And I will also say this, to the credit of both of you guys. I actually shot an email to somebody last night and they said, "Oh, I'm too busy to do an interview with you." And I've been super swamped in the last year. But I wanted to be here and I'm not too busy to be here. And so definitely when people say they're too busy, that means they don't want to do it, and never too busy to be here. So I do want to make that clear. So thank you for having me on.
Well, we'll see you next week. We'll see you next week then. No, we appreciate that. Mikey, you're the king of the world here. Let me give you here. I want to give you the solo, you and your boy Pluto, the solo layout there.
What up, Pluto? How you doing? So guys,
okay, enough of that.
See, this is why you can't let the white man give you nothing, Andrew, because he'll just snatch it off from underneath you as soon as he think he's ready. Boom! Let me get myself back up in here. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. It's been another lovely, lovely evening. But DOA is independent media, which means as much as Dutch loves a joke, our Soros checks have not been showing up. So if you guys want to help supplement the show, if you want to help us with new mics, new cameras, we bought several of.
Well, the Rockefeller check's coming, so we're,
He said he would look into it. He never said it was coming. Just remember that, So if you guys would love to support us and help us keep the show going, like several of you
coming like the Sean Watson at a massage parlor.
Please go to patreon.com/digonamerica.
Yep.
Just that, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So go to www.patreon.com/digonamerica. Just throw a couple bucks in there. And when we hit our $100 goal, we have committed to be benevolent with that money and send a third of that off to charity. Okay. So most of the money that you guys give us, we actually don't even get to keep. We've still been given to charity, and we usually just use it to buy stuff that breaks or that we need to replace. So please, head over to Patreon, give us a thing, and like and comment, share the video, smash that like button, and all that good stuff. And my quote to end the evening is this, and I'm not going to do a Haas where my ending the show takes half an hour. I'm just going to talk more about Haas and how he takes so long to do things. I'm going to say several. No, I'm just kidding. If you want tomorrow to be better, what are you willing to give up now? We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, take care, listeners.